Rioli's got it. Archer hunts him down. Seconds tick down, but Port Adelaide win a classic. And maybe a season changer for Port Adelaide. A tough, gritty win like this worth so much more than the 4 points.
Alrighty, hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. My name's Dave, and as always, thank you for joining us, whether you be listening or you watching. And if you are watching, enjoy the background for me and Jamie this week as I continue celebrating Liverpool getting back on their fucking perch with their 20th league title. I am both hungover and slightly buzzed, but this is a Port Adelaide podcast, and your Port Adelaide Footy Club has escaped with victory, just like the 300,000 plus Allied troops who escaped the clutches of the German military at Dunkirk in the summer of 1940. The final siren feeling much like the British rescue fleet ferrying our port soldiers from the clutches of the evil empire that was the army of fuckheads in fluoro yellow on Saturday night. 14-13-97 to 13-10-88 was the final, a 9-point win after one of the more frustrating evenings to spend at Adelaide Oval. Jamie, sitting with you and your family in the Eastern Stand and the clear glass panelling in front of us on Saturday night, felt I was channeling a bit of Ron Burgundy at points. Just, I'm in a glass case of emotion. How are your emotions as we sit here 3 days removed from that game?
I'm still irritated. Call it a frustrating game. That's an understatement. I remember. I mean, you sat back after the game just to like simmer down, and I was at home, and it was like well past my bedtime, and I was just sitting on my couch, still just churning rage. It was one of the more frustrating games that your team comes home with the 4 points anyway. I can't believe just how irritated, and the glass paneling got a severe working out across the second half as a whole, but that also the second quarter included. It was just a painstaking game of football that you just wanted to end sooner rather than later, and obviously come home with the points, but just, fuck it off, send it into the sun and move on. But we're here to discuss it because we're gluttons for punishment in a way, of course. We all win in the end. Storylines are buzz, and 4 points in the bank. Our season is now. See, I don't even want to use the term back on track because I hate that phrase in the current climate that we're in, political climate that is. It has a connotation that I do not want to be associated with. But to strip it back down to football, we've now won 3 in a row, and you can't ask for much more than that considering the position that we were in pre-Hawthorn. So frustrated after the game, but objectivity and pragmatism has to come back into it at some stage.
Yeah. And we'll go through the lines in a little bit, but I feel like a lot of some of the more review stuff is going to be in the general review in the next, 20 minutes or whatever it takes us to get through it, because a lot of the storyline of the game is about what was happening, whether it be, we can maybe just start with the umpires, because that is kind of the 1A as to why the game became what it was. We did play down at times, but I feel that the umpires had a direct result in kind of stopping the flow of the game and just ridiculous free kicks.
Imparting themselves constantly.
And very, very inconsistently. I've always said, and watching the replay back, I'm like, there was some not called the other way, like the Willie Rioli professional shepherd for the Ollie Lord goal towards the end there. But there was some, like the amount of 50, Kane Corns made a big deal of it on his shows, and for good reason. And there's been a lot of talk about the umpiring in the wake of it, and in general just some other games as well. And the fact that 6 of their goals were just direct from frees, including 4 from 50 metres. So that's a massive penalty for some, and some of those 50-meter penalties were like,
Huge.
Ollie Wines is being sat on by, I think, was that
That was Tristan Cherry, I
that was
think.
Cherry? Yeah, so big bloke sitting on top of him. Like, I think there should be an impetus on the person that's receiving the free kick to go back in position to receive it, and then Ollie can throw the ball to him. If you're sitting on top trying to get the ball from him, you're not doing what you're meant to do in that situation either. So the umpire should just be like, split up and let's like reset here. But instead, the umpire's like, no, 50 meters, because you're not giving the ball back properly as you're being teabagged by, a fucking 200-centimeter bloke. Like, it's just very, very dumb.
And that's beside the fact that Ollie Wines had rights to think that he'd actually won the free kick for high contact.
Mm-hmm.
And then, confusingly enough, got blamed for ducking into a tackle when he's the one with his head over the ball, and it's a split second. Yeah. You mentioned inconsistency. There's a lot of adjudications that got made or didn't get made that you just scratch your head at. And I think that was the second 50-meter penalty in the game where we had given up a free kick, rightly or wrongly, but North Melbourne player was just sitting on top of us.
Yeah,
and
two of them for sure. Mm-hmm.
You scratch your head and think, well, how can you give the ball back to them when they can't even get up in the first place? A really hot-handed, quick draw style umpiring at times, and then just sheer negligence that resulted in beneficial momentum to North Melbourne. Yeah, the standard of it was just deplorable. And we were calling. We had to remind ourselves it was Saturday, because we've mentioned on the podcast before that Sunday is B team. That's the back of house kind of stuff. And but it was still Saturday, and oh man, I'm trying to equally forget about it, but also like just bringing it up again just makes me angry, because I just feel that tension and that anger, that ugliness that spews out at the football. And it was a perfect storm, wasn't it? Like, it was in equal parts in the second quarter, particularly, because that's when it kind of started to unravel to an extent, and then it compounded from there. So the second quarter, I feel like we desperately let ourselves down on a few occasions when we had serious opportunities to have not even a shot at goal, to kick goals. But also on top of that that's when the umpiring started to fall off a cliff. Players got angry, the crowd got angry, and it was one of those moments where it's kind of hive mind. The crowd is kind of impacting the players. The players are over committing because they're angry to tackles, that is. And the umpires are in a mood where they're clearly just penalizing very, very quickly, or very, very touchy moments in the game where everyone's watched enough football. You see enough let go, or alternatively, the umpires are setting a standard and they're paying it both ways. But that didn't happen. So, oh man, like the tension was palpable. That's an understatement.
Yeah, and that second quarter, I mean, that's when the Wines one with Cherry happened, which was like 6 or 7 minutes into the quarter, and then with 4 minutes to go, we'd kind of gotten through the quarter. There was like, and to North Melbourne's credit, and I should be made note of it, North Melbourne had one of those. We keep running into teams having those weeks of doubt being placed upon their team and the players and the coaches and everything in between. And so North Melbourne responded with a bit more pluck than they'd shown in recent weeks. But part of that is on us to battle that as well. And I think when we get to the lines, we'll talk about some of the areas and stats that we're still not quite hitting the metrics you'd like to. But 4 minutes to go in the quarter, we're up by 4 goals. We kind of withstood a lot of it, and then I think it was like with 2 minutes and 15 seconds odd on the clock, there was the Paul Curtis dive. As he's him and Lockie Jones are having a bit of back and forth in the defensive 50, but it was like a downfield free kick for Curtis taking a flop after some contact from Jones, and then that's a goal. And then they get the next clearance and kick a goal pretty quickly after that, and suddenly it's 2 goals at halftime, and the game kind of takes on a completely different mood and vibe, and certainly for Port Adelaide going in, they're going, if they're going in with four goals up, they're probably going, okay, we've gotten through the quarter, and to be fair, Carlton were only up by 20 points last week at halftime, and then they blew it out of the water in the second half. I think the Gold Coast game and gather round that we were at in Linddock, North Melbourne came back and got themselves ahead before they fell away. So they've shown this tenacity and ability to make inroads into a game. It's just like the way they end the games has been the question. And so them coming back, them being within 4 goals at halftime would have been like, I would have gone, okay, like we need to push ahead, but we're up by 4 goals. But yeah, just that bullshit. I think that completely changed the game for the second half. It obviously got the crowd up and about because, the crowd booed them off at halftime and then obviously booed them off at the 3/4 time and the end of the game. Well, I think booed at the end of every quarter from that point, to be honest. It directed at the umpires, and they deserved it. I know we've got to be kind to the umpiring for a turn, but I do push back against the idea that what you do booing umpires at the professional level doesn't mean that you boo them at your local footy. Like, I'm smart enough to know there's a difference. And they do, the umpires do need some help from the AFL, make them professional. There's a lot of things around that, but they didn't do themselves any favours on the weekend with just being very, very inconsistent. The one where Rosie takes a mark and Jai Simpkin just shoots straight over the mark and kind of puts pressure on Rosie. And Rosie, everyone, it's quite clear as day, that's 50 any other day of the week. I've seen it this year. And
just because Rosie jitters on the mark, you have to come off your line for it to be play on. And he didn't. He jittered. He suggested that he might want to play on, but he didn't come off of his line. And like you said, Simpkin just overran it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in the contest. So that's a 50-meter penalty. On top of that, Rosie got held, I think it was in the 3rd quarter, maybe. I can't remember which way we were going. Yeah. And he put his hands out to suggest that he was being held, which he clearly was, and the free kick didn't get paid. And then the commentary team, in a kind of gaslighting way, it's just like, oh, well, if you play for it, the umpires don't like to pay it. But it's just like, well, is it there or not? He was getting... That's beside the point.
For it all fucking day for North Melbourne and got their reward. So whether it be fucking Simpkin with JHF and all that stuff, or Paul Curtis earlier.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't help but think, it's a bit of Clarko. He was obviously the coach at the helm of the unsociable Hawks. But there's this kind of subliminal gameplay almost beneath the official gameplay. And yeah, like you mentioned, Paul Curtis's flop when Lockie Jones gave him a bit of a shoulder tap in the whatever quarter it was. What made it worse is the umpire was clearly watching it because he paid the free kick and clearly was gullible enough to pay the free kick when everyone and that was the other thing is the crowd kept seeing the replays of what these free kicks were getting paid for, which just exacerbated everything. We can all see it. We'll probably talk about Paul Curtis's tackle on Josh Sin. There seemed to be a lot of premeditated aggression. And look, hey, it seemed to work in their favor on the day, extending further beyond the JHF kind of storyline, because they sucked the umpires in. Like I said, our emotions as a collective were affected, because it's not to say that players were having outbursts like that moment between Jace and Simpkin, but you could just tell that we were kind of trying to tackle a little bit harder, or just it kind of seemed that we were reacting to the unfairness that we were all feeling. And again, if that's hive mind between the crowd and then the players, emotions just spilling over. I don't know, but it seemed clear to me being there that the team as a whole were getting really, really frustrated. And again, this is a professional competition. Professional competitions of any sporting code will always have criticisms of how particular games of sport are officiated. But you can't help but think that this consistently looks bush league from
Mm.
an officiating point of view. Like whether you know the rules in and out or not, it just seems fundamentally flawed on the surface. And yeah, when you dig deeper, it's just a mess. And then the game leaves itself exposed to what we saw on Saturday night.
Mm.
That's just haphazard calls left, right, and center from four different people. You know, one guy calling a mark, one guy overruling a mark, like one guy making one decision, what like another decision going somewhere else. JHF having his head clotheslined 50 times a game. And
Yeah.
like Ken said in post match, and I'm really enjoying Ken Hinkley's post match press conferences. And I think I mentioned it at the start of the year that I thought that we may get a bit more out of Ken, a bit
Mm.
more bite back this year. And we kind of are. And he stuck up with JHF. In a roundabout way, he said that like JHF doesn't get the free kicks he deserves, but umpires will easily pay them against him,
Yeah.
to paraphrase what he said. And that's completely true. You just have to watch. I mean, that was a good example against North Melbourne. But any other game, just because he's the one generally with his head over the ball, doesn't mean that the high contact isn't made. And it's not like it doesn't get paid everywhere else on the field.
Yeah. It's funny because yeah, I think he the high contact thing is a weird one because we when it comes to suspensions and stuff like that, it's always the impetus is always placed on the player attacking the player that's down. But then when a player goes in with the head over the ball, it's like, well, they're making that. But then there's this disconnect between how they officiate it if something bad happens versus how they officiate it on the field. And players like JHF are bulls at the contest. That's what, and you kind of have to go down and then a couple of the ones where, and Jason Dunstall had a weird commentary day. He was, as you said, gaslighting a little bit, I found. He go, yeah, he ducked into that. I'm like, he's weaving his way through traffic. Like that's what players like that do. You've got
Yeah, if you're getting off the ground,
yeah,
chances are that yeah, like you said, you're gonna have to weave in and out, but also up and down
yeah,
because you got to come up if you're down.
and just natural human movement is you're kind of gonna shrug forward as you're trying to burst through contest or contact. You're not going to stand up straight and get your head above the I'm doing that on an audio. Well, people watch this on YouTube too, but I'm just like turkey necking my head as I'm doing an example. But you're not going to stand up straight.
Yeah, like a meerkat almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah, like
what?
no, you've got to be head down going through contact. So it's just a weird one. There is examples of players that really, really do shrug the armor, but JHF is like he's just a very, very good inside contest player, and he didn't get the benefit of him, and I found it. I mean, to talk about the moment with Simpkin, it was just I find it weird that I don't know what the meetings umpires have before games are, but you should have known this game was going to have a bit of heat in it, and just to like understand those moments and try to not penalise them heavily if it is just a like for and Simpkin. I don't know if you watched On the Couch last night, but Jonathan Brown, because there's been some who have put the blame on JHF, but there's been a lot of good veterans out there. Like, I mean, David King enjoyed having a crack at him, and Matthew Lloyd, who I'm at the point that I believe Matthew Lloyd is just paid to say dumb shit because I haven't had a like smart thing come out of Matthew Lloyd's mouth in years.
Well, he used to agree with Kane a lot, but now they're separated. He probably feels like he has to carry the torch in like, you know, Sunday Footy Show and things like that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, his criticism was odd. But then Damo on the other side, who were the group of people that you're alluding to, was just like he had the outburst, but then he had a fantastic last quarter. Usually you're criticizing the people who have the outburst because they're not performing to the level, or they go backwards after an outburst like that. So yeah, I appreciated the fact that some people were calling it how it was, and that it was a cheap shot in the beginning.
Yeah. And Jonathan Brown on the Couch said
cheap shot followed immediately by like, oh, what's he doing? Like pushing me back for sniping him in the back. Like,
and then like calling on the umpire to make a call, like, and which is just the kind of stuff that in soccer these days, if you call for a yellow card and make the gesture, you get a yellow card instead. Like, don't be a fucking like little tattletale divot of a piece of shit. But yeah, Jonathan Brown, like when he was asked about it on the couch, he said, I used to hate that stuff. Like he said, that would rile me when someone comes through and hits you from behind like that. That pissed him off, and he's like, "Yeah, I would have gone after Simpkin. Like that stuff's not on. Like that's bullshit." And like he's not. I'm paraphrasing now.
Yeah.
Like that was his energy, and most of the guys, to be fair, said that. Like Buckley was just like, and it's getting forgotten in the mix because they like you got David King being like, "Oh, it's becoming a problem now." How do you manage this player? And Lloyd's like, "Oh, that's borderline droppable." What he did with his coach. The fucking kid's 21. Like the same people are having a go at Kane for having a go at Harry Sheezel because he's 20, but then they turn around and go like, "Oh, you should be dropping this guy. He should know better by now." He's 21. Like that's what keeps getting. I think everyone thinks Jason Horne-Francis because he's so good has been around for like 7 or 8 years now. He's in his 4th year, but he's 21. Guys that are in the NFL are going to get drafted at 21. So
drafted, yeah.
The AFL system makes kids grow through their late teen years and into the footy as professional football players, and some of them, like whether it be Dacos's or Jason Horne-Francis, they grow into very good players very, very quickly, and sometimes get this weird demand put on them that is still like
they're put up on a pedestal for sure.
Yeah. And I think he handled himself really well. Like, I mean, I don't know the stuff with the 3/4 time. We didn't really see that I don't remember seeing that at the ground on the screens or anything like that.
No.
So I only caught that when I got home with the talk from Ken and being pulled in by Butters and Rosie, and David King's making a big deal about it because it's like, oh, you're putting the focus on that. It's like I'm sure most of the players would have understood that. No, they just need to have a chat with Horne-Francis in the 4th quarter. He played a pretty good 4th quarter, and I thought it was a great moment.
Played a fantastic 4th quarter. Yeah. Considering that he would have absolutely wanted to punch someone's lights out.
Mm-hmm.
And
would have been justified in doing so to a couple of them, I think.
Well, and I've mentioned that like I'm a bit of I'm a bit of a cheeky fucker when it comes to sport, but I can also be a bit of a hothead, and just transporting or being sympathetic or empathetic with JHF in that moment. Like I would have wanted to punch someone's fucking lights out, and violence is not the answer, we should say. Obviously this is a game of football. But yeah, just that internal rage. But yeah, you mentioned people like David King like having a go at him and whatnot, and saying it's become a problem. Can you actually remember the last time this has actually happened? Specific, like vividly? And then B, this is after Ken and Zach Butters in the post-match press conference were like, yeah, it's all good. It's clearly not an issue. Sure, we wouldn't have Luke Davies-Uniacke got a gimme of a goal off the back of it.
Yeah.
And against better teams, you don't want to be handing them momentum. But again, this happens maybe once or twice a season, maybe. There was I remember that Gold Coast game last year that we ended up losing up on the Gold Coast. There was a bit of that, and he got criticism for it, and we lost that game. But as we always say, give us players who give a fuck, and that's pretty much what Zach Butters said in the post-match press conference. He he didn't say that, but he effectively said that.
Yeah, I mean, he said, I think his line was something to do with it's trying to cage a raging bull. But he said, and he
prefer to bring someone down from that level emotionally, because they care, rather than trying to lift someone up who doesn't have that fire in them.
Yeah. It was interesting listening to the On the Couch guys who more or less universally kind of said, yeah, no, it's a mountain out of a molehill, this stuff a little bit with JJ.
Well, and they're all footy players now, where On the Couch used to be like a journo. Like Jared Healy was an ex-player, but Mike Sheehan and Robert Walls, I guess, is an ex-player too. But you understand what I mean? Like the people on the couch nowadays are a bit
as well. And
yeah,
good mix of hard heads and Jordan Lewis and Jack Revolt might look a little bit more,
a bit of dark artsy
well. Like
stuff.
Jonathan Brown's like, yeah, I would have fucking smashed a bloke if I could. And Nathan Buckley said, because they did mention the age of JHF as well. And Buckley was like, yeah, 6-7 years later, I might have still done that myself. Like, he's like, it happens. It's football. We impart this need for these players to have passion and fight on the field. Sometimes that's dancing a fine line for some players, and some players are more maybe susceptible to going over that line. But when we're talking about a 21-year-old player, where these moments, while we do have examples of them, are relatively fleeting, and he generally does lock back in pretty well. I mean, he said, I think it was an interview with Channel 7. I just retweeted on the page recently. I think it was Josh Money. Tweeted the video of him being talked to today, and he kind of, JHF kind of said, yeah, maybe tackled a bit harder in the last quarter a couple of times to get some frustration out. But overall, I learnt my lesson, and that's
I'm going to give a shout out during the WG Award nominations for sure.
Yeah,
but I'll save it for then because he did tackle a bit harder in that last quarter. That was evident.
Yeah.
I loved just Kane Corns getting on his Port Adelaide bandwagon this week. And Eddie, friend of the pod, if you're listening or watching, shout out to you and your old man. But he summed it up in regards to Simpkin again. Like, he summed it up perfectly. Like, you're a captain of this team who's won, what was it, 12 games in the last,
I think it was 16 games in like 6 years.
16 games?
Yeah.
6 seasons? Yeah, like, you should be focused on winning games of football for your team, not being chirpy and taking cheap shots on a guy that left your club. And I couldn't fucking agree more. Like, again, I can't help but feel it was a bit of the Alistair Clarkson kind of dark arts directive.
Yeah. Unsociable,
to try and bridge that gap.
Roos now it is, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're relying on that shit to get you back into games, like, you're a fucking lost cause, and all the criticism that you get and have got is warranted. They've got the talent to be performing better than they are. And again, I think the score flatters them still in the end. But just Kane's commentary was just like the icing on top for me.
Yeah. I think he changed one of his profile pictures to the picture of him and Jason and JHF from
in the rooms.
I did like, because I guess he must, whether what his sources he has, but he had some mail that like Simpkin was pretty chirpy on the field, which I assume came from players on the day and through his channels he's found out. So
that's what makes me believe that he puts get out of jail free cards out.
Yeah.
Because it's like he knows more than what he's letting on, but he's just like doubling down on crime time so that he can, I was wrong. Like, how good a thought that down the track.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I'm glad it's kind of changing to, like, the immediate aftermath. It was a little bit of, and the first 24 hours is a bit of criticism, but then, as I said, the on the couch guys or whatever, it became more of just
even Jake Clark, who is a journo, was just like, you want to do that shit, you do it face to face. Like, don't go fucking sniping some guy from the back.
It was a proper hit from the back, and like, as a human, anytime even a friend comes up and gives you a hard slap on the back that you're not aware of, that they're coming to say hi, like, you kind of, it does, your human instinct for a hit in the back is like a little bit of fight or flight. So I would have been. And if
that's true.
Yeah. So, and for JHF, if Simpkins come through, and he was getting a bit of niggle earlier in the game as well. And as Kane said, if there was a bit of chirping going on, and things being said, then I can imagine a hit in the back at that point might have just tipped JHF over the edge. And again, he learnt from it. He's apparently apologized to Ken for, and they've had mature conversations about it. That's what a captain, coach, and coach and player, and then the captains as well, was Butters and Rosie in that moment as well, were really, really good at helping manage him. And it's a mountain out of a molehill kind of stuff. But it is the storyline. He's our player. And I like. It's no secret that we're big Jason HORNE-FRANCIS fans, as we are every player on the team. But he's got a special place in both of our hearts, with how excited we are for the immense talent and possibilities in the future with him and the team. So, and I wouldn't want to change.
And this is the thing, like, you just transport yourself forward in time, and he's effectively a Dangerfield. That's the path that a lot of people are kind of carving out for him. he's like Dangerfield, say it in his late 20s, he's not reacting in that way
Mhm.
like JHF did. Um, because by that stage, we all know that he would have learned, he's matured another few years, and he is absolutely gonna fuck you up. Like
Mm.
it's fraught with danger, pun not intended, but
Good one.
rattling a cage of a raging bull is so fraught with danger. Like, yeah, there's icons in sport, in like multiple codes of sport, multiple different sports, but where some people you just shut the fuck up because otherwise they're going to tear you apart, and that is what, like, fair enough, he left your club in this instance, but you rattle his cage and he's gonna make you fucking pay.
Mm.
Like that's what
Yeah,
it's what
I took
people will come to
the
understand.
it's the
And he
I
and
took
he will
that
also
personally thing,
better
like from
understand.
the Last Dance. Like, man, I took that personally. Like, yeah,
Personally, yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't give him extra motivation
yeah,
because he will fuck you up.
mm. Yeah. I feel like there's stories about Michael Jordan just making up stories in his head about people just to get him to like, just to make himself like he just
Yeah,
find
yeah, yeah,
ways. And
yeah.
yeah, and you can imagine Jason Horne-Francis with like he does look for things to, and I can imagine him doing that in the future, just being like, I don't have anything against Frio, but I'm just gonna pretend that Sean Darcy said something mean about my girlfriend or something one day, and I'm just gonna go out and like, it's just things. So then I run through the contest and just run through him and take the ball off him or something like that. So yeah, no, I like yeah,
Fuck yeah.
he's yeah, that was I'm glad the media is kind of starting to turn around on it already and just realize that they've gone over the top a little bit, but they've got to have something to to talk about. One of the progress of the other one of the other big storylines before we get to the lines and stuff. The Paul Curtis one, um, with the tackle on Josh Sin.
Hmm.
I think I tweeted something about how like I can't remember if I shared it on Instagram or whatever about like what the result will be because the result was concussion, but the tackle was clearly a tackle that maybe went wrong a little bit. But I in the days afterwards, as much as I think I would have been mad if he hadn't gotten a suspension because we've seen players get suspensions for heavy thing. I think it is a moment in the AFL that's really going to hit hard as far as like we need to change our matrices for this stuff because even I'm obviously we're Port fans. I'm mad that Sin's suspended, and I actually think that made a tangible impact on that second quarter because we had 15 minutes of one less rotation while we are trying to figure out we're doing an HIA. I think that's got lost in the mix as well. So that's part of the storyline of that second quarter is we were down a rotation,
Mm,
and that changes our
yeah.
what we're doing in the back and halfback as well. But yeah, I think Paul Curtis is a bit stiff to be suspended for 3 weeks. I understand why he is based on what they currently do, but I think it's a real line and hopefully a line in the sand moment for a little bit of change. I think maybe like 1 week just if you do, because it is players are learning to tackle in a way that you don't grind someone into the dirt. So I think it was still a tackle that could have been executed differently, but there wasn't an intention to. It was just he went into a tackle to tackle. I'm certainly not happy with Paul Curtis on the day because I think he was a flopping little bitch at times, but he is clearly a talented player, and to show some objectivity, I think the 3 weeks.
He is.
I think it just I don't because I know we're gonna have to if they don't change these things, we're gonna deal with it ourselves at some point. We have to kind of there's going to be a moment where one of our talented players lays a tackle and it just goes wrong because it's just at a moment, and we're going to lose them for 3 or 4 weeks because a player gets concussed when it was just a tackle. Yeah, they have to change it somewhere. I don't know how you're feeling about it after 2 or 3 days since the game, but that's just kind of as I've been watching the news and keep seeing the tackle. I'm like, I get why these days that it's a suspension, but 3 weeks again. The numbers and weeks that are being laid out for this stuff at the moment is just getting really concerning for me because that's a long part of the season for a season that is as short as ours are. Yeah, it doesn't sit well with me, even as a Port fan, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Wanted to give you a long run up because I've definitely got an opinion on it.
Mm.
But there's two components, and the first one is a broad one, and that's for everyone like listening, watching, whatever, or anyone that watches football. There's whether you agree with the matrix system that they use, which I think is fundamentally flawed in all of these instances, and something needs to be done about classifications of suspendable actions, I guess you could say.
Mm.
So that's the first part. So whether you think 3 weeks is warranted for a tackle, which is a football action, a bump at the last second when you were going for the ball and then you've decided to protect yourself at the last minute, whether you think 3 weeks is warranted, that's a totally fair and legitimate opinion and line of questioning, and an important conversation to have, because I think everyone would agree that we don't want to see people miss multiple games.
Mm.
Multiple games, it's particularly 3 games. I think that's where a lot of people go, that's still a football action. We're still playing a game of football. Shouldn't get suspended for 3 weeks. I want to end it there because it sounds like I'm sticking up for Paul Curtis. In my opinion, he knew exactly what he was fucking doing. And I wanted to watch it again today just to, obviously I'm biased. That's a given. Like you said, a player of ours got concussed, but some comparisons have been drawn to Dangerfield was one. There was a tackle on a Dan Butler on Nick Larkey, and then there was Nick Holman from the Gold Coast a number of years ago.
Mm.
They were run-down tackles. Paul Curtis was actually hot on Josh Sin's tail before he got the ball. He didn't have to close down space. And from that point on, he pinned both of Josh Sin's arms and he dropped his weight. At no point in time did he try to turn him over. At no point in time did he try and hold Sin up, which is what Dangerfield got let off for,
Yeah.
because even though the player got concussed, he tried to lift the player's body up and he tried to swing his legs under. There is many, many examples. You want to watch the perfect tackle get laid? Watch fucking Willem Drew's highlight reel. Willem Drew is one of the highest tacklers by numbers in the league, and he is never in the conversation for being suspended as a result of it.
Yeah, is that
This is what I was
103
alluding to
consecutive
before.
games or something like that now, Drew? Like I think he's hit 100 consecutive.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
vaguely remember seeing
Because
him.
he crossed the 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is what I was alluding to before about Alistair Clarkson potentially getting in the ears of his players
Mm-hmm.
and telling them to play on the edge and play with a bit of that dark arts magic to try and get an edge or try and make their presence felt. Like I said, I think Paul Curtis knew what he was doing, or he was jaded in his mind about what he needed to do to instill his presence on the contest in that moment. It's not like he saw red or anything like that, because the game hadn't got to that level yet. But I absolutely think that he could have and should have shown a better duty of care.
Yeah.
Like I said, he was hot on Sin's tail. He didn't have to close down much space at all when Sin got the ball. He lunged and pinned both arms, and he just dropped his weight with reckless abandon. The AFL has told the players and the public, whether we want to listen to it or not, that you have to attempt to roll the player or soften the landing. I acknowledge that Sin's knees got buckled under the tackle, but that was also
It's part of the force, I think. It
a
wasn't.
result of Curtis dropping his weight as opposed to holding up in the tackle or trying to roll or trying to swing the legs under Sin in the tackle. That's why I think the ban was upheld. And I agree that he decided to tackle. He didn't show a duty of care. That the player got concussed.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not showing duty of care and the player gets concussed, I think everyone goes, okay, that's the world we live in now. because there's things that you can actually do to show a duty of care, which he didn't do. So then to finish that off and go back to my first point, it's just whether you believe that he should miss 3 weeks for it or not.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. Like everything you've just said is like,
and I don't necessarily,
yeah, but that's the world we live in at the moment. That's why I'm like, when I saw he got suspended for 3 weeks, I was like glad he got suspended because I think he should. But then I started thinking about, I was just like, it's just this world that we live in that where players are getting 3, 4, 5 for football actions is what. Yeah, it's an irresponsible football action because he hasn't done the best tackling. As you said, Willem Drew's shown a great propensity for it. I think last year I mentioned a lot. Jace Burgoyne's had some good examples of, and he's
he was young second in my mind while I was
and he's a young player that's grown up in more in this environment. So you can see that there's players that are developing tackling techniques that do help them. Yeah, as you said, Curtis just kind of went in a bit overzealous, and the result was a concussion. And he deserved.
That's a good word to use.
Yeah, I think he does deserve the time off. It's just the 3 weeks is still just not sitting well with me for football actions. That's what, like, if it was, it's just that, and I don't know what the right example is, whether it's 2 weeks or whether it's 1 week with, maybe some loading for future events, like the good, there's got to be some system for, I don't know what the answer is. I know I'm never going to apply for a job in that position at the AFL anyway, but it's just.
No.
Yeah.
And like the topic that is raised is that the AFL is saving themselves from litigation in future years. But I think that is just a ridiculous notion. Because not that they are protecting themselves. Like, I agree with that, but I don't understand it because the ex-players that are taking legal action is mostly coming from the angle that both from their clubs and because of the AFL environment at those points in time was that you need to go back out on the field after you've taken concussive blows to the head or you're showing concussion symptoms. It's more, and the AFL has already legislated away from that, with the concussion sub, mandatory HIAs. That, in my opinion, now I'm no lawyer, of course, but that's what you're doing to care for the players who are showing concussion symptoms or have taken concussive blows to the head. It's not how someone over suspending players who cause concussions. That's bullshit.
Doesn't change the fact.
If anything, players should take legal action for restraint of trade because they're being, they're being like overzealously suspended for things that, like we all agree, are part and parcel of contact sport, a 360-degree angle contact sport. But the AFL just seem over the top in protecting themselves again when they're supposed to be the custodians of the fucking game of Australian rules football. And I believe that they're doing their due diligence by HIA tests and SCAT 5 tests or the gradient that lies on, and concussion substitutes as a construct, and the concussion protocols after that as well.
Yeah, because there's
for me, from my uneducated opinion, that's your due diligence to avoid this future litigation.
Yeah, because it shows that you're treating the situation with care, and this is the thing that all leagues around the world have this same stuff. Like the NFL went through it, 10, 15 years prior. Like when I was in college over there in 2009, 10 was when a lot of the concussion stuff was coming out, and there was a few players that tragically did take their lives for, because of some issues they were dealing with the CTE, and that was all in the news while I was over there, and there was a class action against the NFL, but the NFL's got, if you target with the head, with the crown of the helmet kind of stuff, but it's only like I'm trying to think, you get thrown out of the game and then maybe you get the next week or a half sometimes. Like, it's not, the NFL has a shorter season, the penalties are still shorter, but the league's there's now an acceptance and an understanding of, I've got friends over there like, I'm not sure I'd let my kids play football growing up. So that's they now have the information to work with, and then if they still play, they understand. and they know that they've got the doctors that are going to try and take care of them. It's not going to be the old days where it's smelling salts and get out there and all that stuff. And we have that same thing here too. It's just like, Darren Jarman got sent back on in the 97 prelim and apparently doesn't remember a fucking thing about what he did after that.
Yeah, Johnny Platten has stories to tell.
Yeah.
I think Max Rook is one of the more recent players that's doing it all. And again, from my perspective and how I read it all, it's more so that whether it be from the medicos at the club's philosophy as a whole, or like, the AFL on top of the clubs wanting players to keep playing like football, it's more so the fact that they had to go back out on field. And now what we've learned is just like,
as well. I remember
was there a due diligence back then?
Well, they knew that he probably wasn't good to play, but because they were like, oh, this is the world we live in and we don't have any rules about it, I'll go back out there and see what you
need to suck it up and harden up. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a knowledge of it, but it was just like we as a society weren't knowledgeable. Now we are, and we have rules.
Yeah, everyone turned a blind eye.
Yeah, like I was disappointed Josh Sin had to miss the rest of that game, but I absolutely have no problem with the fact he had to do it. And that's fans are educated enough to know, players are educated enough to know. I mean, we've got Ollie Wines taking himself out of games when he feels a heart flutter, and we're all like, with everything that we know and all that. So yeah. The fact that they're litigating after the fact and the concussions happened anyway. And Paul Curtis might tackle badly again. This 3-week suspension isn't going to change. They already get taught to tackle in ways. He's still done it. It might happen again in the future or a misplaced bump or something. Like the concussions happen. Nothing's stopping the concussions. It's going to happen in this game. We unfortunately have got we've done everything we can, and we'll still anything that we can further do, but gotten away from the game a little bit. But I just thought it'd be interesting to bring because it is something that affected us, but it is also, the AFL at large is still dealing with a bit of not everyone's happy with how it's being dealt with, and the media is certainly making a case for it. And I think it's one of those things that just optics wise, everyone just looked at it and went, God, do we want to be this? We want to advertise the sport the way we do and play this sport the way we do. While we have taken a lot of the violence, the over-the-top violence out of it, it is
exactly.
It is still a contact sport, and we have to kind of accept a certain level of what can unfortunately.
And tackling a player is an action in this contact sport.
Yeah,
that we all love. Yeah, like you said, it was overzealous, but
yeah, where do we want
the
this game to go?
AFL? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, it's hopefully. I mean, on the topic of Sin, hopefully he's recovering okay. It certainly was wobbly, and it's not. You never like to see that either. But and it sucks for him because he's trying. Like we've talked about his injuries and whatnot, getting him consistent game time, but. It's not a muscle injury or anything like that from the past, but certainly head injuries are still something, as we've seen with Todd Marshall, you've got to manage them carefully going forward as well. So I've only got one more thing before we get into the lines myself. If you have anything else general, let me know. But wanted to make note, I kind of watched the replay in a little bit of a hungover haze with the Liverpool celebrations, but so I didn't have too many Dwayne-isms, but I did love that he brought out some semi-pro commentary at one point. He's just like, semi-pro out there. It's everybody love everybody. Loved it. I am a big semi-pro fan. I think it's actually a great movie about what historically about what basketball was like in that time in America. Getting traded for a washing machine. But yeah, I love Dwayne Russell just giving out an everybody love everybody in the middle of the game when it was getting a bit spicy. So that was great. I don't know if you have any other ones, but that one was what I got.
No, none that I can remember.
Yeah.
I've only had one real rewatch of the game myself, and that was in 2 halves across 2 days, and a lot of tiredness and red wine, to be honest.
Yeah. Absolutely, very, very good reasons, and it's not exactly the most fun game to dive back into in a real intense way, anyway. So, Yeah, yeah, but loved him bringing out some semi-pro. I was really, just Dwayne Russell. The things that he can come out with at times are great. Like he does have a really, really
Yeah.
extensive, just random pulls that he can grab for the game. But the Lions, and I figured, just like last week, and go back to front. It might be the best way to do it going forward too. I like that.
Yeah.
An intriguing backline game for me. I don't think I don't know how to, and it's like probably every line a little bit. I'm not exactly sure how to review them because I don't think anyone stood up in the best ways, but I think they all played okay as well. I think Asava had a bit more of a struggle. I think Aaliyah did as well, but and maybe there was a bit of luck with
I think
Nick.
they got the matchup wrong. I think
Yeah,
it was the wrong way around, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but yeah, because Asava struggled a little bit with his positioning. And
Yeah.
just his ability to affect the contest a bit as well. So yeah, mate, yeah, maybe that is, and they never switched it much either from memory.
No,
Yeah, would have
no.
been
They either
the
tried
move.
to keep Aaliyah as a looser defender, and then also marking Jack Darling if he was in damaging positions. But yeah, like for me, Nick Larkey is a bit more athletic and a bit more a lanky operator, and like Asava is quite athletic. We've mentioned that before, and other people
Mhm.
within the Port fan base have too. But also we're still kind of trying to deal with what we've got, and that's not to denigrate Asava, but kind of giving him tasks that he can realistically achieve. And I would have thought that a Jack Darling, who again is a bigger body than Aaliyah, who seem to be matched up on him more often than not. Asava's got the big body, and Jack Darling isn't in the best of form. His, what was it, one goal came off the back of one of those
One
50
of those
meter
50s.
penalties that you
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah,
before. So I would have thought that Asava could have better contributed to the game if he was put on a Jack Darling that doesn't move around as freely as Nick Larkey, and is a bigger body and um isn't in as much form as a Nick Larkey is. And then alternatively, Aaliyah starting the season off fantastically well, in my opinion, bit more athletic, a bit more lanky, a bit more mobile, and a bit more of a professional defender than Erratic Aaliyah. Yeah, and like you said, we didn't change it.
yeah,
We just kind of kept Asava trying to bridge that gap. And then, but Larky had opportunities throughout each quarter
yeah. Just
that thankfully he didn't convert.
a
um,
truly, a truly, horrible display of goal kicking. But yeah, yeah, he very easily could have had 3 or 4 goals if he kicked straight. Um,
mm.
Yeah, because I mean, Aaliyah only took 1 mark for the game. Sava took 6. But yeah, Aaliyah only having 1 mark
Yeah, and that's the
shows that
that's the weird thing about it
yeah,
is like in general play and in some pack situations, Asava kind of stood up a little bit in those brief moments.
mm,
And I think it goes along with your opening sentiments. Is just like what to make of it all, because there
yeah,
was downsides to each line,
hmm
and there was some upsides too. Clearly, like we're reviewing a win. Like
yeah,
it's just a very weird game.
it is. Yeah, I don't think anyone. Like, I think don't no one really stood. It was very much a unit game and just try to mitigate the damage when it
Mm,
happened. And then the game got weird. Obviously, 6 of their goals come directly from
that's it.
free kicks. Also,
Yeah, it
one
just
thing,
impeded the momentum and the sway of the game so
yeah,
much that like, what do you actually take out of it?
yeah, yeah, because I don't know how if a 50-meter penalty into your forward 50, I assume still counts as a forward 50 entry. So you could say there's 4 of their forward 50 entries, and I think we won that by 7. But if you take a 50-meter in there into account, and there's 4 of them that got them in there to kick a goal, and maybe it's even a bigger win for us on the entry. So yeah, it was a weird one in that sense. But yeah, no one really stood up. I mean, Rosie off a half
Oh, hang on.
had a
Sorry.
had a great. Sorry, yeah.
Connor Rosie did have a fantastic game.
Oh, that's what
I
I
think
was
he's
literally saying. Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
yeah, okay, yeah. We're
yeah,
just like beaming it together there.
yeah,
Yeah. Like, well, because I reacted that way because of still adjusting to the fact that that's actually where he's playing now, and
Yeah.
he's probably the only one who had a good game consistent over the 4 quarters. Then while everyone else, like, I think, left wanting a little bit. Lockie Jones had a bit of a regression in
Mhm.
terms of the overall performance. I'm not too unhappy with him. He got to a lot of contests. He just had one of those games where his spoils and his marking opportunities fell out the back of the contest, which is just
Yeah.
chaos.
He still had the
Um,
6-1 percenters
and
like
one,
Jones. Sava had 8. Aaliyah only had the 4. So again, I think it's just Aaliyah just didn't have a game where he could make the impact. He wasn't doing spoils, obviously, only took the 1 mark. Um,
mm,
Sava took the contested mark numbers aren't great either. So there just wasn't really a win for them. But again, 6 of their goals come from fucking free
free
kicks. So
kicks,
that's
essentially.
36.
Yeah.
That's a fair margin. And some people might go, well, Nick Larkey missed some, so that offsets it. I'm like, well, we also missed 2 gimmies as well, like a few gimmies ourselves and a few sets. There was obviously the Mitch Georgiades one where he hit the back of the ball and Sam Pepper kicking it like 2 feet off the ground. So there's a mitigation factor to that if you want to do that. So yeah, they still did get 6 goals from free kicks that make a big impact on the scoreline and on just their ability. If you take that out of the game, maybe So it is a weird one. I don't know how to.
Mm.
Maybe it makes you think, well, when Brandon Zach Thatcher it's back, it's good. But then I think, like you said, they probably just didn't utilize them the best, and then the game got a bit funky as well. So just it kind of didn't help either in that sense.
Yeah, just going back on Lockie Jones for a sec though. His obvious matchup for the game was Paul Curtis, who
Mm-hmm.
we've spoken a bit about, and Curtis ended up with 3 goals. But just to stick up for Lockie Jones a little bit, I'm pretty sure 2 of those goals came from moments when Paul Curtis wasn't on Lockie Jones for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
I think one of them, he got a free kick for holding the ball in the center square, and then that was one of the 50-meter penalties.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't remember the other one. Oh, the soccer off the ground when we should
Yeah.
have just killed the fucking ball. Um, again, I don't not necessarily. It's not like a direct matchup type of goal.
Well, and
The Lockie
the other one,
Jones,
and the other one comes from the Jones free kick thing. So
the
that's
free kick
yeah,
that we don't agree with.
yeah.
So just to just to balance it out, like, it doesn't look good on the stat sheet. I don't think it was Lockie Jones' best game, but I also think his direct matchup was pretty fortunate in how he got the 3 goals that he got, and still admitting that Curtis is a good player and B had a good game overall. I think he got a coach's vote
Literally,
too.
almost
But
everyone is saying that he's in all Australian form. So I think their only thing that
mm,
they're saying that he may not get into the all Australian side is because he plays for North Melbourne. They'll probably be in the bottom 4 at the end of the year. So they're like, that
yeah,
doesn't help your cause, but they're saying his form, if he was in a side, like if he was, doing that for Geelong, he'd be a lock for all Australian at this point. So that's kind of how they're talking about Paul Curtis. So that just does show
hmm
the level, and he's a talented player. Um, so yeah, interesting. Just on the Rosie point back, did you see the Darcy Tucker stat for Rosie's
oh yeah, who
tag?
was who was this tagger? Yeah, that's bad.
It's
That's
incredible.
like dig a hole kind of stuff.
Yeah. And for those out there that aren't aware, so Darcy Tucker, who was pretty much Rosie's, matchup, he had 97 minutes on the field, no kicks, no handballs, zero possessions for 97 minutes on the field. So no player since
Yeah, I
2010
think he
has
had
had
three
zero possessions.
tackles.
Yeah, is that what it was? I should have a look at his. I didn't actually put
Yeah.
North Melbourne stats into my stat pack because I just didn't give a shit about what they did because I should have just grabbed umpire stats if I was going to do that. So, um, that's facetious of me. But yeah, I thought that was a great. Connor Rosie had a great game, and it does show, like we've talked about, like people that play that role, the really good ones actually have an impact on the game, and yeah, Darcy Tucker did not have an impact at all. Yeah.
Well, and I think I heard on radio, I think this week, just on the Rosie topic or somewhere in the media sphere, they were saying about how when he was still in the midfield, like against Essendon and St Kilda, Durham and Windhager both kind of had his measure a little bit,
Mhm.
and restricted his impact. And he's moved to that half back line, and he's still, well, he had a job on Ginnivan predominantly,
Yeah.
And he kept him quiet. But then last week, Sydney sent Jordan to Rosie and he
Mm.
wiped him. And then in this instance, Tucker's had one of the more embarrassing games of an AFL career that you can have
Yeah.
and hasn't just fucking touched the ball, while Rosie's absolutely lit it up from half back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Loved it. It's just one of my
interesting.
favorite things
Yeah,
out of the
yeah,
game. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because you just didn't even. I don't know about you at the ground, but being for me, I was just like, yeah, I didn't even realize he had someone trying to pay him such close attention. Really.
No, no, you wouldn't. I mean, look, you just look at the stats. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
91% time on ground for Connor Rosie as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
just saw.
getting up to the
But
numbers
yeah,
that some of our defenders are
getting into the
getting going.
numbers of it all.
Yeah. Um.
So
You have anything else on the defense, or just ready to draw it? Just it was a weird one because I overall think they had a fairly hard once the game got into the murkiness of those third and fourth quarters. They had a real tough job against a side that, I mean, you said it on the day too that North Melbourne kind of had this play just with reckless abandon because that's all they could do because they don't really have a sustainable system yet. So it was also like, let's take it back down to raw basics, get the ball forward at all costs kind of thing. So we were having to kind of deal with the chaos ball aspect of it. And I think overall the defenders,
St Kilda were doing a bit of that too.
yeah,
Just chaos forward at all costs, and yeah, very little. Not very little. That's a bit too denigrating, but yeah, just less strategy.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I guess Chaos Ball is a strategy, but yeah, you and everyone else knows what I'm getting at. But
mm,
just one light note, not going to spend too much time on it. Still think Miles Bergman's in a bit of a lull. Don't know if
yeah,
it's a result of his body, but he'll take those those handful of miles marks that you're just
mm,
like, yep, put those in the book. But yeah, just his impact is a little dampened, and maybe it's just a result of Rosie taking on a heavier load back there. But again, don't want to spend too much time on it. I'm not overly concerned. I just hope it wouldn't get to a point where his body is cooked if it is in fact a result of just an underlying issue.
yeah. I think we talked about last week that it's been mentioned that he's dealing with a few niggles, but he hasn't popped up in the injury list for this week again, and he must be okay. It's just maybe he's just operating at 85 to 90% rather than the closer to 100% that the explosive Miles Bergman. And as you said, he's kind of not having to take on as much of that kind of meters gained role, I guess, as well, because Rosie's taking some of that. And yeah, and same with Jace Bergman. I think had an okay game overall, but he had a few real burn the ball moments as well. Like there was wasn't a great game for
Yeah,
some of those disposal
yeah,
things.
I definitely admonished Jace a couple of times
You did.
while we
It
were
was
sitting together
just
at the
reminded
game.
me. So I
Yeah,
do have a
that,
memory of you going, "For fuck's sake, Jace!" like, just like
yeah, you're having a
exasperation.
shocker. Is
Yeah,
yeah, but looking at his stats, yeah, it obviously wasn't as bad as what I was manifesting in my mind. It was just like you said,
I can't
because
remember
he's
the
gone at
exact moment, but he
81.8%
did.
disposal efficiency.
I think he just
But
did.
yeah, he's
He
kind of yeah,
undercooked a kick at just a moment. It was just like we just need someone to fucking just settle it
just do
down.
the
He just
thing.
yeah, he just didn't do the thing. Yeah, and that was just probably more of the chaos of the game as it got late on there. Because I mean, there was one moment just I remember that Wardlaw goal that was like late in the game that kind of pulled him back
Yeah, loose
within.
checking.
Yeah, because he come like I think it's he and but like they're on the far side of the contest. It's kind of like there was a stoppage, kind of in the hole in front of the goal, and Wardlaw's on the far side of the stoppage, kind of matched up with Butters, and he just rolls off, and no one goes with him, and he's able to. So it was just moments like that. It's just like you just want to see a little bit more like locking in of particularly. I know Wardlaw's had some injury troubles, but he's one of the young stars. It's like you should probably just watch again. That was a beautiful
Oh,
finish from him. It's
yeah.
still like a low percentage probably shot as far as X score goes, maybe like snapping from that angle, but he was given that opportunity to do so because they just didn't watch him off the contest. So, but that's more maybe starting to get into midfield stuff, which, yeah, we had some great performances from guys in the middle again. Clearly, we'll get to our votes later, and there's a few that'll feature, but still flabbergasted at our inability to get. And I think maybe starting with Sweet probably has had 2 weeks of just coming up against some real behemoths in the ruck game, and
Yeah. Yeah, here's
um,
my watch for this week.
same here. Let's just that
Yeah.
was yeah. Um, yeah, I'll let you go with it. I'm not overly concerned for the future, but it is just
No.
he's had 2 weeks where he's let himself down for me. And again, he's coming up against the behemoths, but I'll let you say your piece on him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, similar sentiments. Like I'm not overly worried. He's a ruckman on the rise, and he's performed well above expectations up to this point in his Port Adelaide career. But yeah, he just lowered his colours 2 weeks in a row, and it kind of looks worse when it is consecutive games.
Hmm.
Uh but as you just mentioned, and as we kind of spoke about regarding Grundy, like when you're coming up against all Australian standard ruckman and you're a player on the rise trying to make a name for yourself, like yeah, does leeway have to be given? Probably a little bit.
Hmm.
Uh, is Sweet making up for it in some other areas, like we mentioned in last week's show? It's also a bit of yeah. Like I think he was up there in tackling. Like our tackling game was great
Yeah,
on
six
the
tackles.
weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was 6 tackles, which is equal fourths out of Port Adelaide players. So 20 pressure acts, which is in the top bracket of Port
E-
Adelaide players,
Equal
also
third
equal
for
fourth.
yeah.
So
Equal
um
four. Yeah, equal four. Sorry. Yeah, you're right.
so like yeah, that's where I'm like we're on a similar wavelength where it's like he's a watch, but it's more of an expectation for him to rebound because I think that he will. He play coming up against his old mob. So again, does he take that personally
I
and
hope
use
so.
that to spur him on? Last year he absolutely fucking took English to the cleaners. So you know, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater in regards to Jordan Sweet. It's just worth noting that he's had a couple of games where he's come up against genuinely better opposition. He had the same amount of hitouts as Sherry, but Sherry absolutely fucking wiped the floor with him in regards to hitouts to advantage.
Yeah, 14 to
So,
three
and
on
that's
that.
where we kind of lay most importance. So,
Yeah, and that's what it's hard to quantify because again, the clearance game isn't great. It's close, but you'd hope to be winning the clearance battle because I think Carlton beat North Melbourne pretty comfortably the week before, and that was kind of one of the areas.
yeah, it was 20-10, I think it was, or something
Yeah,
like that. Something ridiculous.
yeah. So they just North Melbourne won the centre clearances 13-14, and stoppage was 32 apiece. So overall 45-46, but we'd hope to be beating them, and we're just not getting um, great work out of the clearance at the moment. But with the considering the players we have, but then as you said with the hit outs to advantage and just how well Cherry was playing it, maybe it's just a factor within this game that we just weren't getting great looks at it, and we still managed to even it up almost, considering the numbers, how well Cherry won it overall. Maybe it's just something we just go, that's just the game and what it
Mm.
was, and we need to see a really great Jordan Sweet game again, and then see how that kind of works in with our as long as our midfielders are fit and the contest game is good. Contested possession still a bit down, but minus 18. That started that way in the first quarter, though. I think the first quarter we were down by almost 10 at some point, and we were still winning the game comfortably in the first quarter. So it didn't get out of control as the game went on, kind of like last week against Sydney. It got really out of it. It just kept on getting worse. But in this one, it kind of
Oh yeah,
we were
horrendous.
down. Minus 10 in the first quarter at one point. I've got my notes from the rewatch, and ended up minus 18 at the end of the game. So kind of level kept pace with what we were at after one point in the first quarter when we were actually playing well. And as you mentioned, the tackle game, the last few weeks, despite losing contested possession comfortably, our tackle game's been really good and our pressure has been good as well. So there's metrics again that are showing that we're not soft. I think we won the ground ball slightly as well in this one. So we're winning some metrics. It's just like I'd like to see us a little bit better around the contest again still, but Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to cut in, but this is probably an objective viewpoint of mine in regards to some of like, the free kick. We can get as angry as we want about the free kicks and whether they were there or not there. But I think when you're looking at contested possession numbers, like for me, if you're winning the ball first, you're less likely to give away a free kick
Mhm.
because you've got the ball at your hand. You know what I mean? Like, I think we left ourselves open for shitty umpiring
Yes.
because at times we weren't winning the contested ball and, yeah, left ourselves exposed to ridiculous interpretations. Um, it's a feeling that I had on Sunday and Monday. Yeah, so, yeah, it's one thing I would say, yeah. And because this is coming from a team that, 2021, 2022, 2023, even last year, like it was basically like we win contested possession, we win the game of football. If we lose contested possession, we lose the game of football. That's
Mhm.
pretty much how the equation went. It was like the only stat that kind of had a correlation to win-loss.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just I would definitely like to win more contested ball and ground ball. And ground balls are obviously within the contested possession umbrella.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're winning. We've won these couple of games where we've been beaten in contested possession. And then, yeah, our pressure numbers and our tackling numbers are just ridiculous. Like, I think we were in the 200s for pressure factor for pretty much the entirety of the game.
Yeah, and oh God, there was a number in the first quarter, 254 to 159.
We were
Like
like 250. Yeah,
250 is basically off the charts. Like, I mean, it's charted, so
that is.
it's not off the
Yeah.
charts, but it's very, very close
Like
to.
that gauge is breaking
Yeah, yeah. It's the
under the
whistle of
pressure.
steam. The whistle of steam is going, and yeah, yeah, yeah. And even when
Exactly.
it closed up, it was still like 200 to 190. Like we were still in the 200s or high. I think AFL average is like 180, and we were
Mm.
rarely got below that. From just I just try to note it when I see it in the rewatch when they bring it up. Um, throughout the game. And yeah, you're right. The pressure, and that was the same thing last week too. Our pressure was pretty good. Tackling was pretty good. It is just getting the ball first and winning the ball at the ground, and it just we could make less work for ourselves if we could just tidy some of those things up. But as you said, we're winning the games, which is
Yeah, and usually when you are instilling 200 points worth of pressure factor on a team consistently across 4 quarters, that's when you're pulling away, like
mhm,
from a score point of view. And that's where the whole free kick debate is just like our pressure was up, but the momentum that teams generally generate off the back of that pressure is nipped in the bud because, yeah, all of a sudden there's a free kick getting pulled out, and then North Melbourne gets a score as benefit of that. That completely
mhm.
goes against all the pressure correlation to score,
Yeah.
which is also frustrating because, yeah, we need to make up some percentage. That's obvious. And
Mhm.
yeah, again, if I was to ask you, if we had pressure factor above 200 for 4 quarters consistently, like, what's the margin going to be? Yeah.
Against North Melbourne,
It's not even are we winning that game, it's what's the margin going to
yeah,
be?
fucking 80 points. Like it's just what you'd think. But
Mm.
yeah. Um, it is interesting to note that just from scores from, despite the fact we kind of weren't great, the clearance game again was interesting. Um, the score origin from the centre bounce, we kicked, it was 4 goals four to 2-1 to them. So that while they were winning, they just don't do as well with it. So we just need to, if we present ourselves with better opportunities, I think that's just why I want to see us tidy that up. Is like, because you can see kind of where there's some things coming together. It's just if we can tidy those areas up, the ability to score and give ourselves a better platform in games will be improved by that.
Talk about opportunities. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you talk about opportunities though, just to play devil's advocate.
Mm,
I think we did generate some genuine opportunities.
yeah.
Um, but I'll go back to that point when we get to the forward line. Um,
Mm,
just staying with the midfield though, they had a genuine contest, on their hands. Zach Butters was obviously stand out. We've spoken about JHF. Our role players like Wines is underappreciated, I think, as a whole,
Yeah.
both internally and externally. And again, it's kind of what we were missing as the game went on in versus Sydney after he had to go off, which we have no qualms about, of course. His
Mhm.
health is paramount, and again, just put all the conversation to bed about his heart and whatnot by coming out the week after he got subbed off and playing a great game. Willem Drew tackle numbers again, like I mentioned before, were double digits. Jackson Mead, I think he was up there in pressure acts.
Mhm.
So
Up there in pressure
yeah,
acts and tackles.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
So our role players played some roles,
Mhm.
our star players, and genuine guns
I think Ollie Wines
did
did some really nice
what?
inside work at times, like extracting the ball, getting handballs out,
Yeah,
stuff like that. Like he was right from the opening bounce. I think the first goal came from like him being right in there and right in amongst it. So it kind of put to bed the heart stuff pretty quickly. So yeah, there's like
absolutely.
as you said, the role players played their roles, and then the stars played well.
Mm. It's
Yeah,
just I think they maximized on Sherry. Like you've said it again, so I'm just reheating what you've said. But yeah, Sherry gave them a clear dominance from a ruck point of view. LDU had a consistently good game. His only goal came from a
yeah,
free kick.
they've got good players in there. I mean, I know Luke Parker's playing his 300
George
game, but
Wardlaw
he's still
impacted.
experienced. Um,
Yeah, and these are the kind of players that we brought up on our Patreon show. And again, for those contributing to us in that way, thank you.
mhm.
Absolutely thank you for that. And you would have heard us discuss the squads and just things we were looking out for. And that was the thing, is like LDU hadn't had the start to the season that he would have wanted, but we all know how capable he is, and he put it out there on Saturday night, I thought. So that's where you got to pay credit. They were getting their hands on the ball in those quarters where it was kind of a bit fever pitch.
Yeah,
They were getting their hands on it too, which again, like I think in the third quarter, they absolutely smashed us in clearance,
and then we smashed him in the fourth
which is
quarter.
funny. I was just about to say, yeah, we smashed them in the fourth quarter. And that's where I think we kicked, what was it, 2 goals, 5 or something in the
Yeah,
last quarter, like that. Like, again, pressure factor, clearance numbers, that's where we should have fucking pulled ahead again. But unfortunately, yeah, the margin just stayed at an annoying level
yeah,
for the entirety. So uh midfield unchanged for mine.
yeah.
The next game, like
I think the only
yeah,
thing I'll say, and it's unfortunate, it looks like we don't know when we'll see him on the field again, but um, yeah, Boak's maybe leadership at times might have helped
yeah,
in moments, but overall, I can't fault them too much. It's just it was a game that became close and frustrating in some weird margins that you generally, hopefully, don't have to deal with too often between umpiring, and just some bounces of the ball were weird as well. It would just go at the wrong angle when a player's
yeah.
like going for the get, and it's like just, so some of those numbers would have been better if there was just random moments where I looked at the bounce of the ball, I was like, what the fuck are you meant to do with that? Like maybe read it better, but it's just like, well, these guys do have games where they play really well and read it well. It just felt like
Mm,
a game where the ricochets went a
yeah.
bit funky and often just benefited North Melbourne. Maybe that's my biased point of view too. It'd be interesting to know if
Yeah, that's
you know,
footy.
and yeah, comment or tweet or whatever if you have a similar sentiment, or it could just be me. Because you do see things that you're looking for when you're looking to feel an injustice in a game, and whether it be,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
um,
We need something to dwell on.
yeah,
Even though
exactly,
we got the win. Like again,
yeah.
we actually got the win.
Yeah, I did text you back. I think it was like that night when I was home. I said I was sitting at home feeling as frustrated as I did when I got home from the St Kilda game, even though we'd won. It was just such a weird feeling, and I'm
One,
certainly
yeah.
happy that we won,
Yeah, I
obviously,
know.
but it was such a weird game to be at in that sense. The forward line, a really weird one because again, Mitch Georgiades should have had a bag, played a good game, but he missed. I think that shot in
He's
the
gonna kick 10 goals. He's
at
gonna
some
kick
point.
10 goals one game.
Yeah,
Like the damn wool the damn ball is going to break, and it's going to break with aplomb. He's just going to like all the marks are going to stick, all the kicks are going to go straight, and he's going to kick fucking touch away to God. Like
Yeah.
he's that. We've been saying it for weeks now. He's that close to just absolutely ripping a game apart. You would have thought up against North Melbourne would be the game.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. He just can't. He can't finish his work either marking the ball or kicking for goal. But yeah, he's a man on fire, though,
Yeah.
from a football point of view. He's absolutely, when he mentioned in the preseason that he wants to be the man, and he kind of smirked at the question,
Mm.
he's walking the walk as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely would love him to kick more goals and take more marks. That he's doing the hard work to get himself into a position to do,
Mm.
but it's just not all coming together just yet. But I obviously have faith that it will,
Yeah.
because good players like that, they just keep showing up, and then it happens, and that's why it's just he's putting credits in the bank for the
Yeah.
day that it all works out for him, and we all get to rejoice in that game that Mitch Georgiades plays.
Yeah. It was a funny one that way because to flip your bit around on you, like Jamie, if I told you that Mitch Georgiades took 10 marks and had 17 disposals in a game, how many goals does he kick against North Melbourne? Like you're thinking six.
Six.
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're just
has
thinking,
to.
even if he takes a few marks upfield, if he's taking 10 marks and having 17 disposals, you're just thinking he's kicking 5 or 6. But it was just that kind of game. He did let
Oh,
himself down with that one there. He just tried to. Has such a weird moment, too. Like him just rushing. Like he doesn't do that. Like he's not that kind of player to kind of go, because he does back in his set shot
yeah.
in that kind of spot. It was just a weird one that, um, yeah, to try to turn around and snap it quick and hit the backside of the ball and leave it in general play. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, Kim Dillon was hot in his feedback on SENSA yesterday, and basically said you have to respect the moment, whatever the moment is that
Mm,
you have a shot on goal. You have to respect your opposition and respect the moment, and just put it in the bank.
yeah.
Like, just do it. Take this, because, and this is what I was alluding to from the midfield point of view. Like, we got some opportunities, particularly in the second quarter, when things started to turn in North's favor. We actually had opportunities earlier to keep that momentum rolling in our favor. And yeah, the obvious ones are Georgiades, like you just said, from the top of the goal square, and then Sam Powell Pepper from the top of the goal square.
Hmm.
But there was also George. He had it on like the half forward flank or just inside 50, and he went to square it, or was that JHF, or was it both of them? In fact, there was a couple of opportunities where we'd marked it inside 50. Players who can make the distance, who are generally pretty good kicks, but then decide to just be a bit either unselfish or a bit too cute.
Hmm.
Just go for goal. Like,
Yeah.
again, respect the moment. Um, have a score. And then, there was some other opportunities. Like I rewatched it today. I think it was in the fourth quarter. Sam Powell Pepper, I don't think he was in the middle, but he got essentially a clearance and just blazed away, and just those really easy punchable balls, like for a rush behind or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like we're saying that we'd like the midfield to generate more opportunities, but we also left some goals out there which were generated from good pieces of play. Um, and for whatever reason, I think there was another couple of kicks that went out on the full during the game, and yeah, shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Yeah, but just waiting for these things to all click into line. And while the forwards, like my spotlight for the week is obviously Ollie Lord. Like, one of his better games
It's
from
mine
grit and
too. So
determination.
that's good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really funny.
I
Yeah.
had to get in there. My backup, was Ollie Wines, but yeah, we spoke about him a little bit.
Hmm.
But yeah, Ollie Lord. So I think it was last week or the week before on one of our Patreon shows, saying that the qualifying final against Brisbane in Brisbane, there's like the credits are just about used up in that
Yeah.
regard. From it always gets mentioned, but it comes a time where he actually has to replicate those games or continue in a upward fashion and contribute to games as a whole. And I think this game was one of his better ones in terms of that kind of grit and determination
Mm.
and contribution across an extended period of time. Um, whether it be his general play, he had some exemplary moments of collecting the ball and summing up the situation and disposing of it in a correct manner, I guess you
Mm.
could say.
He's got
But then
some
he
good.
also had contested marks, general marks, and shots on goal too, where he left a little bit out there to be desired. Was it the 2 goals too? But he led the team for score involvements with 9 at the end of the day too, which
Yeah.
suggests that he's definitely contributing how the coaches would want him to, and putting it out there on the field.
Yeah, yeah, he had this really good moment. I can't remember where it was, but kind of similar to your goal of the week nomination a few weeks ago against Hawthorn, where he dished it off to Jackson Mead. Like he's got a really good, he's
Yeah.
very quick, very good ground game. Like one of his goals came from collecting a ball and snapping. Like so, he's kind of general play, and then obviously his ability to mark and kick a. I think that goal that he snapped, I think we were sitting together at that point. I said that like if Ollie Lord marks in 30 meters on an angle from goal, like that's more of a lock than his set shots at the moment. So that's a little bit of the development to come. But like it's good that he has that. He kind of has a few tricks in the bag, like some consistencies in the bag. It's just work on that straight set shot stuff a little bit. But I think that's gotten better. I think one of his just kind of floated not too far wide.
I was going to say it's a bit like your feedback from Georgiadis last year
Mhm.
was when he and I think it still applies to this year, although some weird out in the falls just sprinkled in there with George. But
Yeah.
when he's missing, it's not by much, which
Mhm.
suggests that he's still on the right track,
Yeah. Yeah. If they were really
albeit
shanking
not
or just
kicking the
coming
goal.
off the side of the boot, then you're looking at ball drop and action and follow through. But yeah, it
Mhm.
wasn't like Nick Larkey's game, which was just really all over the place and wasn't really any consistency to his inconsistency in front of goals. Like Ollie's seems to have got the radar in a bit. He's still just trying to fine tune it, but yeah, and his impact just around the ground and yeah, his score involvements was fantastic. So yeah, Willie Rioli kind of bit quieter, but it was a weird game. Like Joe Richards, by the way, loved his little like like there's a little bit of the Luis Diaz's goal to equalise against Tottenham the other night. Like it was a ball just
Snatching that.
put across the front of goal and just running in and tapping it like just punching it into the net. Just love that, and really good to have Joe Richards back out there as well. I think again he's still ingratiating.
Yeah, well, I was
Yeah,
sorry.
no, go ahead. That was
Yeah, I was looking through the stats before, and obviously his crumbing goal sticks out, but I was like, oh, he's got 2 goals, and you'd have to remind me, I still can't remember where the other goal came from for him.
I thought there was one later in the game. I swear you and me were up that I reckon one of the ones we were jumping and hollering about.
Oh, it was the soccer where it was like it could have been Mead, but it was Richards as well in the goal square
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
cathedral end.
that's a Diaz
Yeah,
one I was
yeah.
talking
Sorry,
about.
it's
But
just
yeah,
come back to
yeah,
me.
yeah, that's the one I was talking about. But yeah. Because he kind of just rolled.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right. I'm thinking of the one where he crumbed it out of the pack. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, bridging, a soccer goal with that crumbing goal is, a weird way to bring Liverpool back into it. But yeah, no, yeah.
I would do it any way possible.
But I'm here for it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was the one.
But
He
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
just got
sorry. Yeah,
like just got
I get you now.
centered in front of goal, and he just punches it in, a la Soberslider to Diaz the other night. But yeah, his quickness of mind is something that I'm really enjoying for Joey Richards.
Mm.
Yeah, there's some good moment. Like I mean, with Lord Georgiades, Richards all having multiple goals, just their multiple goals with 2 each. It's just like they all teased. Well, Richards maybe not so much, but Lord and George both teased maybe bigger games again. But they're on the right track, which makes me happy. And there was still some moments of good kicks, good delivery inside 50. Again, it's just a game that just got a bit funky for me. I don't know. I can't
Yeah,
judge them too much on it. I would have loved them all to have a bigger bag and destroy North Melbourne, but with the way the game went and the umpiring, it's just like I can't put too much blame on them for. There was a few, again, like you mentioned, blazing away, but the accuracy was decent. There wasn't just a real shocker of a night. There's still no tweets out there for Jay Shields, so
Jay Schultz.
yeah,
Yeah, I think because I think a bit of a defining feature of our forward movement is and it's being spoken a lot about in commentary, is our propensity to kick to the pocket
yeah,
when in and because George is like, and players like that are generally converting, whereas in years gone past we've lamented the fact that we've gone to the pocket so fucking much. But also we also seem to be generating scores from closer to goal.
yes. Yeah.
I don't know if that's just a I don't know if that's just a vibe, or
I've been looking at
I'm just
the.
making it up on the spot.
I don't have it in front of me when I look at the X score maps because I find them fascinating just to look at where the scoring opportunities come from. And
Yeah, absolutely.
the games that we're playing decently, we are generating, we're getting it deeper inside 50. So like even if those shots are on an angle from the pocket, like they're closer in on goal, and like that,
Yeah.
like the Jason Horne-Francis kick to, I think it was Ollie Lord for, I think he might have missed the shot, but it was a really nice kick from Jason Horne-Francis, obviously, and
JHF had some fucking blinders
oh,
inside
just
50, that is.
yeah, and it was great forward.
Like, take the piss.
Yeah, and it was great because Mitch Georgiades like leads a little bit further out from goal, and Ollie Lord's going more deeper into the pocket, and they're just both spreading the defense and both being obviously accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice to watch. It is still obviously a work in progress, but yeah, with that delivery, whether it be Jason Horne-Francis' delivery, I mean, you talked about the Dangerfield comparison earlier. Like that's probably the one thing that if he keeps developing everything, if his delivery keeps like that's the one thing he's got above some of those players is his usage is just so much better quite often. I think his disposal efficiency wasn't great for this one, but that's partly because of the game it was. But yeah, when he has an opportunity to deliver inside 50, he can be really, really, really effective, damagingly so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Clangerfield didn't get the nickname Clangerfield for no reason. And yeah, like you said, if JHF keeps moving in this trajectory, who also has forward chops as well while we're sitting on the forward line at the moment. Yeah, if he keeps progressing in this way, the kicking, the entries inside forward 50 and what have you, that is absolutely going to put him above the player that he is getting the most comparison to in Dangerfield. So I'm here for it. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, just some of those, again, with the fire in his belly and the fire in his eyes, just maybe it was that one. I can't remember. There was just one coming out of the center that like players shouldn't kick that well. I don't know. It's just yeah.
At the speed,
It was just a
that he's
bullet.
moving, and that like
Yeah, it was the speed he was running and the way that he kicked it. I'm just like sitting there watching it, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, because often when
Absolutely
they're running at that
ridiculous.
speed, they
And
kind
put
of
it on a dime.
put the ball through, but he kind of was able to touch kick it still, even at that speed. Like not, he just like,
Yeah,
had this like perfect, just everything was just
yeah, piercing, like low trajectory, just
mhm.
bullet while running at
Yeah
full
to the
pace. Yeah,
spot
just
that
it's a beautiful thing
only
to
Ollie
watch.
Lord could take the mark. Like it was just like there was no.
Was it? It was, yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah. I
sure
think
it's
we
like
might be thinking of the same one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was Lord, and it's just yeah, he was the only one that could take the mark. Like I think was it Comben was on Lord at the time. Um,
Yes.
reasonable defender, obviously, and like he just had no play on it because Lord got out in the lead and it was just placed perfectly out in front of him. So yeah, there's lots of things to be excited about. It's just like getting all the intangibles, like or in between the line stuff, and just not dealing with a weird game. It just became a weird game, and that's kind of what my overall review of it is. It's just like one of those ones that yeah, we could have been better in moments. Some of our disposal at times, our ability to kind of control the game got a little bit wayward in moments where we could have controlled it better. But then when you're the umpires make such a sizable impact on directly on goal scoring for the opposition, and like very, very heavily in the opposition's favour, it's sometimes hard to bridge those gaps. And we still got away with the win. So like it's a game that, watching
snatch and grab.
Yeah, watching replay was difficult, but I did it, but I won't watch this one again. There's some games that I'm happy to have on DVD and watch back. This one, will never ever be watched again by me unless I lose a bet or something. I don't know. No, I'm never going to watch this game again. I won't make that bet. But yeah, it was overall we got the win.
Agreed.
And there's still signs of growth within the game, and certainly. Yeah, for a game between Port and North Melbourne, which was probably figured as one of the lower rating ones for the weekend. I'm sure people that, like neutrals that watched it, at least got a little bit more out of it than they were probably expecting to get. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I didn't. I wanted us to finally win one comfortably, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else, or are you happy to get to the segments?
Now let's roll on.
Let's fucking roll.
Down, Gray doing brilliantly, getting through to Monfries. That's Grady's best.
Wilson kicks hard and kicks Crawley.
Robbie! Let him entertain you!
All righty, the Wilson Gray, and Jamie gets to go first this week. I definitely had a few that I was really stoked with in this game, so I'm looking forward to seeing where you went first.
There's a lot to consider. There's a lot of moments, like you said. It was a tight, hotly contested game, and as a result of that, there is moments within the game that kind of stick out. Something that I alluded to near the start of the show in the JHF discussion, but. At the start of the fourth quarter? Yeah, 19 minutes and 52 seconds left on the clock. So we're 8 seconds into the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Luke Parker gets the ball and JHF just absolutely fucking sits him on his ass. Like, you could tell that he wanted to bury him in dirt. And he did it legally. He did it hard. He did it but fair. And this is only an honorable mention, I might add. But that was sensational. Yeah, just fucking going into 3/4 time, just red rag to a ball, and he sees North Melbourne play it. Just fucking ball. Anyway, that's not my nomination. My nomination is still JHF, but it's obviously his specky that ended up sitting on, I think, Jackson Mead's back. That's just a good footy moment. Like, it's just...
Dawson spanks it away. HORNE-FRANCIS! What about the way Mead just softened his landing perfectly? It was like he was sitting on a chair.
Something that JHF tends to have a go at each game. Mm-hmm. And I think so far is a bit of a specky. This one pays off, but then it's just the extra soft landing.
It is just the fact that he kind of
sitting on his mate's back.
At one point, he's like looking down, like, wait, who am I sitting on? And kind of like, it's just, there's a slow motion aspect to how it plays out, which is really fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like someone pressed like 0.5 speed or something like that. It's just like,
because he just kind of slides off like
down.
Yeah. I hope he said thank you to Jackson Mead afterwards, because like the opposite side of the spectrum is like, I mean, thinking back to Chad Wingard's mark of the year against St Kilda, like he hit the ground hard on that one. So like, I hope he's bought like Jackson Mead just a bottle of wine or something. Just said thank you for the soft landing there, Jacko. Like that was good. That was nice. Yeah. Took a specky and didn't even feel any pain for it. Yeah, no, that's a really good one. And shout out. That was my number one option for me as well. Thought that might go, but there was another one that I'm really excited to talk about in a moment. But that tackle on Luke Parker, by the way, is being a bit of a bitch on the night too. So happy 300th, Luke. But
bitch. Who's a bitch now? For any of those, is that from the new guy? Pretty sure it's from
who's in that movie. I'm like
It's that weird like rat-looking guy that was always in like early 2000s
I was trying to think of
movies.
Fuck, yeah, I know who
I
you
can't remember his name, but yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to get too much into the weeds of of who that is because we could sit here for probably 15 minutes trying to figure it out.
But then, did you see Luke Parker's was it Instagram
about Paul
story today?
Yeah,
yeah, like Game Touch Football. Like, yeah, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like have a little bit like we've talked about it. It's like
I hope you get suspended now.
Yeah, 301st game and get suspended. Yeah, like you've played 300 games and like we know what's going on in the sport at the moment. So we don't need to have you out there. Yes, I mean speaking of like people talking about Jason Horne-Francis as like reactions as a young man, like Luke Parker is 300 games into his career, a veteran, and he's like fucking rage Instagramming. Like, yeah, fuck off. Anyway. By the way, the winner for the WG last week was the Lockie Jones tackle, which came after he kind of lost the ball, but had a real good chase down. So the Lockie Jones tenacity, as it was called in the
Lockie.
Yeah, a great moment. My nomination is another great tackle and one that I got really hot on during the game. Sam Powell-Pepper's like just fucking massive rundown of I think it was Luke Davis.
Rundown?
Yeah.
Kept it alive. Hardeman's been pretty good. Not the required. LDU! Why? Finlayson goal.
Couldn't make a decision. And as we said in the first quarter, quite often you just got to make a decision because it's only a matter of time before someone's going to hunt you down, especially side with Sam Powell-Pepper. He does it all the time, but...
Yeah.
It was, yeah. It's on the short list.
Yeah. Incredible. Just the fucking optics of it, just him closing that space, and like Luke Davies-Uniacke just looked like just fucking like
unaware,
helpless penguin, just standing there and and it's just like Sam Powell, just like
a penguin. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah, that's kind of good. He's just looking around like, oh, what am I going to do? And like just Sam Powell-Pepper's just beeline towards him. I'm like, how are you like? Watching it back, I'm like, how are you not noticing what's about to happen to you? Like, because again, like this.
I know, yeah.
The slow motion aspect of Jason Horne-Francis mark. There was a bit of that to that.
Yeah.
He comes from a fucking mile.
LDU was stuck in slow motion,
like a penguin.
I know sometimes, like when I'm at home and I've got like multiple chores to do at once, or there's multiple rooms that need kind of tidying up. There's occasionally I'll just like get stuck thinking about several of them at the one time. And it's like, where is my focus going to go right now? It's just like, wait, no, just stick to that one thing that you started doing and then move on to the next. It's like
what you're saying is LDU was procrastinating in a football game.
What's the right decision to make here? And
I can tell you the one decision that wasn't to make was like stand there and let SPP absolutely fucking rail you, and then and it leads to Finlayson's goal. So it was a very, very important moment in the game, in a tight game. So that was a really fun one, and I think SPP had a pretty good game overall as well. So do I. I thought he had a fucking great game. Yeah, he's starting to lock into a few of the things that he does well. We'll talk about it in a bit, but he's coming up to a big milestone for him as well. So that's great. All right, so goal of the week. Let's get into those.
Monfries has kicked a goal. Unbelievable. Haven't seen anything like that. It's gone at right angle.
Flashpoint. Stevie Motlop. What a time.
What was almost floating on air was this beer that I just opened and like just almost went fucking everywhere as the sting was going there. And goal of the week, which I get to go first. I'll just make known that a really tight count on the votes last week, but Willie's goal got through on me utilising my vote. I don't. I think I've mentioned it before, but I don't vote. Utilise my vote unless it's needed as a tiebreaker, and it became a 50-50 last week. I'm blanking on who the other one was because I've only written down who the winner was, but it was Willie's goal that won for our goal of the week last week. So, I could open up my Instagram right now to see who I nominated.
Yeah, I can't
It
remember
was
now
Willem
you say
Drews.
it.
It was Willem Drews.
Oh, yeah,
The ideal
yeah.
start. The ideal start. Yeah, it was that
Ideal
was my
start.
nomination, but I actually, Jamie nominated the Willie goal from last week against Sydney, and that's what I ultimately gave my tie-break vote to, because that would have been my first pick if I was picking first last week. But I am picking first this week, and mine.
Wow.
And I'm going the SPP double because I have gone.
Yeah, damn it. Yeah.
I now know what Jamie's number one pick was. SPP Bull in Action was the commentary.
Jones gave it up, Drew. Fed it further forward. Power Pepper with a push off. Oh. Just bulldozed his way through with a power Pepper.
I'm sure Alistair Clarkson wouldn't have been thrilled with the tackling efforts, but this man, when he's on the rampage, good luck stopping him. They've just put their foot down.
Yeah.
Which was fucking fantastic commentary as well. He shakes Charlie Comben and I think Riley Hardiman as well. Just kind of break through two tackles, kind of like a fucking just like running back in the NFL, just fucking trucking a couple of blokes.
Just the
it really was just like he's just seeing the line and the defensive line in front of him and just breaking holes, and then obviously he finishes off a relatively simple finish for a small forward afterwards. There's work that goes into it, and obviously big double cobras I think in the celebration from what I remember. Those watching on YouTube will see it somewhere in this bit, but really just aesthetically pleasing goal, and SPP playing like that as he did for a lot of this game, which is really good, as just mentioned in the WG as well.
Warms the cockles.
Yeah, and when you're getting a WG goal of the week double, it shows that you've had a fairly good game, a round game.
SPP is so hot right now.
Yeah, he's so hot right now.
Right now, yeah. Fuck yeah, what a great it's the it is the optics of it all. Like, it's just sensational. Just the stuff that you were mentioning in the WG, like SPP gear starting to really manifest itself now. Some really great goals from this game. Shout out to obviously JHF's quick snap for goal in the second quarter after we had squandered several opportunities, and then Richard's crumbing goal that I mentioned before, thinking of the wrong Richard's goal that you were talking about. But my nomination goes to Georgiadis from George's pocket. Actually, that was another Dwayneism on the night. He said he had to file for get lawyers involved to get the certificate from Eddie Betts for George's pocket.
He also got the mockers on in that one because I think he missed that one after that one.
Was it? Oh yeah, because that was later in the.
That was later in the
fourth quarter.
Could have probably sealed it with a couple minutes to go, which we didn't end up giving up another go, but it would have got us to the point that they need 3 goals with 2 minutes to go. So,
yeah. But this one's from the start of the fourth quarter when we need to reaffirm our ascendancy, and George gets it. Tight in the pocket.
There's a little breeze blowing to that end, so that helps.
Works it back. Gorgeous George! Can you believe it? From the pocket. They love keeping the pocket open, Port Adelaide. Just beautiful kick. Beautiful kick.
Everyone watching and just slots it. Just a fucking great George goal. And goals like that are, something that we're pretty much expectant of now from George, to be honest.
Yeah.
And even though you mentioned, he missed one from a similar spot later in the quarter. But just a fantastic goal. Crowds up and about after that for sure.
We were up and about up in the Eastern Stand for sure.
I was cock-a-hoop.
Mm-hmm.
I was cock-a-hoop.
Yep. No, that was a good one. We kept on getting those goals where we're like, okay, now this is the time that we break the back, and then they get one quickly.
Break them. Yeah.
Such a
few umpires.
Yeah, such a fucking frustrating game. Have we said that yet? Have you gotten that notion, listeners, that we're frustrated from this game? Good.
I'm sure they are too.
Yeah.
I'm on edge. Like, I'm a little bit on edge. Maybe it's the red wine talking, but
Yeah. For me, it's just the fact that I went through that game, then worked Sunday, and then didn't get much sleep as I watched Liverpool clinch the title. Have you realised that we're Liverpool fans yet? Like that as well. Sorry to those that aren't Liverpool fans, but you'll understand. You understand if when your team does do well, you enjoy it. But yeah, I haven't slept much in the last 2 days. Anyway, yeah.
There's a guy on Twitter. I think his name's Luke. And if you're listening, thank you. Appreciate your listenership. I don't think he does though, but he's an Everton fan. So I'm sorry, why you would instill that pain on yourself, but B, yeah, obviously this probably hurts more than some other people who actually give a fuck. I'm sure there's a lot of people just like, shut the fuck up about soccer.
Hey, Connor Rosie's a Liverpool fan.
No.
I think Connor Rosie and Todd Marshall both shared stuff yesterday about the title win, which is cool. I know Connor Rosie, when he did some stuff for SA Tourism in the lead up to Gather Round, was wearing a Liverpool hat when he was flying around the Barossa in a helicopter, which
That's right, yeah.
liked. So, my captain, Connor Rosie, Virgil van Dijk, my boys. Anyway, speaking of Connor Rosie, I'm sure he's going to feature in a moment, for me at least, but Jamie gets to go first. But first of all, I'll play the embarrassing sting just for Jamie's enjoyment.
Let's do it.
Now it's time for the CREEDCAST Player of the Year voting. Player of the Year voting. Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't just change that with one of my voice notes from over the weekend, and shout out to Stu. He'll know what I'm talking about when I say that, but yeah.
Don't worry, that's in the tank for later. Anyway. You get to go first on our Player of the Year votes this week, Jamie.
I do. So I should probably bring up my notes now that you say that. Honourable mentions to Willem and Ollie Wines. Mentioned their efforts in our midfield line.
Yeah.
Unlucky, really unlucky to miss out on votes, particularly Wines. He's just, every game is a well-rounded game and could or would get him votes. But
yeah,
alas, some of them he has. But yeah, he's an honourable mention. So my one vote actually goes to Mitch Georgiadis. So George had the 17 disposals, 7 of which were contested. He amassed 354 meters gained, so he's still doing that work up the ground, working it back. 10 marks, which we mentioned before, 3 of which were contested. For his 2 goals, 2 involved in 6 score involvements, and 5 inside 50s. My 2 votes goes to someone else in the forward line, and that is actually Sam Powell-Pepper, for how much I loved his fucking game. He also had 17 disposals. He had 450 meters gained, 7 marks, 2 of which contested, 1 goal, 2. He had 8 score involvements as a whole, 6 inside 50s. He had 18 pressure acts, and he also had 5 tackles. So I think as a SPP, in my opinion, had a bit more of a well-rounded game.
Yeah.
Whereas George just coulda, shoulda, woulda, blew the lights out in a pure forwards game, while also having those meters gained, which we're kind of getting a bit used to. So that's why I put SPP above George for this time around. My 3 is JHF. 27 disposals, 12 contested, 10 ground ball gets, 462 meters gained. He kicked that fabulous goal, which I mentioned before. 7 score involvement, 6 clearances, 7 inside 50s, and 4 tackles. So again, he's kind of getting there and thereabouts with his tackles. It was a criticism earlier in the season. So good to see him continuing in that fashion in this little form patch that we're in as a team. My 4 votes goes to Rosie, 27 disposals, 8 of those intercept possessions, 74% disposal efficiency as well. 721 meters gained. He is just absolutely fucking shitting it in with meters gained. And look, it's a stat that it gets brought up a lot. It's a bit of a, sometimes it looks fashionable, but you're like, well, whatever. But yeah, it's just, I think it's got to be 3 weeks that it's all above 500. And last week was above 600, wasn't it? It's just stupid. Stupidly good. 7 marks, 1 goal, 4 score involvements, 5 inside 50s, and 4 rebound 50s. So he's just continuing on in this fantastic form that he's found himself since finding the move to half back. And my 5, which is no surprise, is Zach Butters. 27 as well. So JHF, Rosie, and Butters all had 27 disposals, which is funny. George and SPP also had 17 disposals apiece. 13 contested possessions for Zach. 11 ground ball gets, going at 77% disposal efficiency. 380 odd meters gained, 7 square involvements, 5 clearances, partridge in a pear tree type stuff. Pick a stat, and Zach's near the top. And that's why he gets the 5 votes on my behalf.
Yeah, that's an amazing list because we Yahtzeed apart from one, which is my honorable mentions would have been both, Ollie and Willem, because I think both of them deserved, and my honorable mention would have been to Mitch Georgiades as well, because I've actually, just because I wanted to, and my reason for it, and I liked it because I did have Mitch in my one spot for a bit, but maybe it's just me being like, I need you to be taking, like, kicking, like I took some points off for fucking that kick up because I'm just like, you need to go, like, that's your one would, like, you go back and kick the goal because that's what you do very, like, better than most in the competition. And because of Ollie Lord's relative youth in comparison, I was just like, to be the leading score involvements player in the kind of player that Ollie Lord is, I gave him my one vote. So I was like, I want to get Ollie.
You don't know how long I thought about giving Ollie Lord my one vote. Like, I was
then it would have been
staring at
because everything
my
else
AFL app and my notes. Yeah, for so long. I desperately wanted to.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, I just think
because
he had some good moments in general play. Like I said, some of the handball, like just link up play stuff that he did in moments. 75% usage, 9 score involvements, a couple of goals. Again, could have kicked one more, but I think he's 23 games into his career, and I think he quietly had one of his, I think maybe his best game as far as a pure, like an actual teammate. Like I think it was his best disposal game, possibly actually.
They mentioned that on commentary, yeah.
It did. That's why I have that in my head. I was just like, I know, I feel like I read that or heard that somewhere. So, he's finding ways to get involved in the game more now that he's starting to find, like, he's feeling a bit more comfortable as one of our two key tools, and working in tandem quite well with Mitch. I think they both really enjoy working together. There seems to be a synergy.
Our team's improved since Lord has been included in it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Zach
we're
came at the same time.
Yeah. Zach's probably he's the obvious example of, I think, was it Gary Lyon saying that he's like the most, I feel like Gary Lyon said something. I think I shared it on Instagram.
Yeah. Like if he's got a blank check, he's giving it to Zach Butters out of anyone in the competition.
Yeah.
Effectively.
So Port Adelaide.
Again, Victorian barracking.
Yeah. But I mean, he's right. I can understand his point.
He is right, yeah.
Jamie's looking. For those listening on audio, Jamie's eyes were just like, there was a gritted teeth frustration on face there. But yeah, for the rest of your reasons, for the rest of them, you've already mentioned the stats. But yeah, they were all incredible games. You mentioned, Connor Rosie's meters gained. I just had a quick look because I had my notes app open that I use for my stats packs, and just clicked back to Gather Round, and he had 546 in Gather Round. I think he had 800 and something last week, and then he's obviously had the 700 and something.
800 was it? Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah. So he's at 2,000 meters gained plus in the last 3 weeks since his move to halfback. So those are very good numbers, and so the move is paying massive dividends. And he kicked a fucking that was actually in my probably a few down, but I did note that his goal again was great. Like he's kicking a goal
sexual chocolate, that goal.
Yeah, he's kicking a goal a game from halfback, which is like the cherry on top, because you don't need him to do that. Like Houston didn't do that, but he would always pop up with an important one when you could find the right time. But Rosie's kicked a goal, I think, every week since he's moved to halfback. If not, did he kick 2 against Hawthorn? He did kick 2 against Hawthorn. He kicked 1 last week.
He kicked 2, yeah.
Yeah, so he's kicked 4 goals from halfback while getting 2,000 meters gained, and his intercepts are really, like, I think he had 8 intercept possessions in this game as well.
Some strong overhead marking. Yeah,
some great marks again.
Ticks everywhere.
Yeah, he doesn't have any contested marks listed for this week, but there's a couple that were close.
I swear there was one.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I want champion Data's. I want their number now.
Yeah, I want a free somehow membership to however I get champion data stats. Um,
Stats,
yeah. I want David King's laptop. I fucking hate like get a Mac, but I'd utilize his HP. Um, but yeah, no, really good.
It's got
Really
all
good
the
votes.
stats in it.
Yeah. Obviously, I haven't actually read out the rest of my votes, but I said we yardsed. So yeah, it was a SPP for 2, HORNE-FRANCIS for 3, Rosie 4, Butters 5. I'm really glad to get SPP in there, and I'm glad, like, really cool to see that we both were at a similar level. I think he just had his marking. We talked, I think it was a couple of weeks that he just was dropping.
Yes,
He shouldn't, but he was really marking the ball.
In the St Kilda game,
yeah,
was one that we were just like, just stick him.
And it was like inexplicable. Like, but he took 7 marks in this game, which is like I think third best. Tied for second best actually with Rosie.
Yeah, and in contested situations as well.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I think SPP was like his kind of best barometer game for a while. And like he really in a game that ended up being tighter than we expected, he played really well. So really happy with those votes. That's good to see. Anything else to say on those players, or are you happy to get into our look forward before you wrap up for the night?
Burn this tape and walk away is what I've got to say.
Yeah, do like the fucking Joker in The Dark Knight, where he's like hitting the fucking detonator, like waiting for the hospital to blow up, which is like, I'm sure you know this, but one of my favorite movie trivia bits
tidbits.
Is the fact that like that was genuine, because like he was hitting the detonator. It was meant to blow up on first hit, but didn't, and so he just keeps hitting it, and then it blows up behind him, and there's a like genuine like reaction to it, and then they keep it in the movie, and it's iconic. So anyway, that's what we're
obviously love that movie.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Christopher Nolan can do no wrong. Let's look forward now to we've obviously got we'll do our more in-depth look at the squads and everything and the lines on our squad show in a couple of days, but looking forward to this week, Saturday in Ballarat against the Western Bulldogs. Looking like a nice day in Ballarat, or a reasonable day in Ballarat. 19, mostly sunny, which obviously the Ballarat reputation can be cold and snow almost, and wind blast.
Just don't schedule them in fucking July, and you'll be fine.
Like, is that when the Crows, I think the Crows have to play them, and I think it might be around then.
Yeah.
So, poor bastard.
Oh, this year?
Yeah, I think the Crows. Yeah,
because I know there's. I know there was some games last year, or maybe even the last couple of years, where they're in like the middle of fucking winter, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Although the Bulldogs played GWS there late last season, which is ideal as it comes back into warmer weather with spring. But yeah, just read the room.
Yeah. It has been a point of controversy, and that's the only reason I know the Crows play there as well at some point. And I assume it must be in later, because I wouldn't expect they're putting the Bulldogs going to Ballarat and close proximity to in time. But I have no idea what the Crows schedule is. But it's come up because it is a bit of controversy with the Ballarat games this year, because the stadium's doing some renovations, and so the capacity is down to like 5,000. So I know the Alberton crowd, I think, cancelled their trip over to it because they just couldn't get the tickets, which is
because they couldn't get tickets.
It's a frustration. I teased the idea to myself, and I think I mentioned it to you a couple of times. I was thinking about driving over, because I've done the drive to Melbourne in a day before. Like, I'm a country boy. Anything I wanted to do when I was a kid involved drive, so I actually love driving. And I was like, I've driven to Ballarat before too. I was like, yeah, I'll drive to Ballarat to watch a game and come back in a day. But it wasn't going to be possible with tickets. So, but that's neither here nor there as far as looking ahead. But it's looking like the day will be okay. 19, mostly sunny, is as best as you can expect for, and the winds are meant to be light as well. So that's probably the most important factor for a more country ground, where the wind can be a bit more of a factor. So hopefully not too much. It will be different, certainly, playing at a country ground again for Port Adelaide. But so that will be a factor in the game, I think. But it's some of those bigger details that Ballarat can provide will be mitigated by it being a decent day comparatively to some in the past. Our injury list is obviously Josh Zinn out with concussion protocols. The only other one that is of note, I mean, Tom Cochrane's been I think we knew that last week though, so he's TBC and his foot, but it's going to be a decent amount of time, a couple of months, I think. Travis Spoke with his back has kind of been more announced today that there's no timeline on when he'll be available again, which is sad, obviously, as we want Boak available just as an option. But certainly, I, as a fan, just want him to keep racking up games keep creeping up the list. But yeah, it's probably the major one for
of
us.
course.
Yeah, the major one for us, I think, going into next week of immediate note is probably Josh Zinn and how that changes the lineup, and we can talk about that in a moment. I'll just mention the Bulldogs injury list for this week as well. Adam Treloar is probably the major one. He's a test, so he could be back, and they've really started to get some players back over the last few weeks. Obviously, the Easter Sunday rising of Marcus Bontempelli was probably the big one, but yeah, they've got a few players that are on the way back. Nick Caulfield, Luke Kennedy, Lockie McNeil, all tests. Obviously, Sam Darcy out for a while, so that's one we don't have to contend with, but otherwise they're getting back to decent strength comparative to where they started the season, and despite all that injuries.
And Ugle Hagen has officially been taken a leave of absence as well, which is
found that funny because I just assumed that's kind of what he was on, but I guess it's an official thing now as far as
anyway.
It doesn't have to, like the club's just gone, we're not expecting you to turn up, and you don't have to, whereas it was like he turns up here and there, I think was what I was seeing was happening.
Yeah, sort yourself out a little bit.
Yeah. Obviously, all strength to him as far as the mental health journey, but I feel like there's a little bit of, it's an interesting situation. But that's for a Bulldogs podcast.
I think there's a bit of looking in the mirror that needs to happen, but that's from a totally removed, uneducated opinion and perspective.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I certainly agree. Like, I certainly empathize with young people growing, because I know my journey as a young man wasn't exactly linear, but it's still like I would look back and say, at moments you needed to fucking have a look in the mirror and figure it out better. Like if I could do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So but we don't have to contend with him, nor Sam Darcy, nor Cody Waitman, who has been a pain in the ass at times, but he's been out all year as well. But
oh my god,
Jesus Christ! He's a random one that just gives me nightmares for some reason, because he always seems to have.
Yeah, he's a pest, and he always
Cody
gets
Waitman
goals
games against us. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. But we don't have to contend with him. But it is overall they are getting back to decent strength, and they're on really good form considering the injuries they've had, and some of their losses have been honourable at times, whereas ours haven't been. But how are you? I mean, back to us, because we'll talk about the squads more in depth later on. But just before we talk about predictions for the game, how do you think the Josh Zinn one's an interesting one for me? Because my immediate thought is maybe it predicates. Before I realised Travis Spoke was going to be indefinitely out, I was thinking, throw Jace Burgoyne back into halfback, and Boak, if he's back, he plays his wing role. But then there's a real. It's a theme of the season now, but your talk about domino effect. I don't know what the Josh Zinn one does, because that was my first thought, was Jace Burgoyne to the half back, and I think that is a decent move because Jace Burgoyne has shown propensity there. But then who do we bring in to replace that, and like where the domino effect moves happen? I know Will Lorenz has often been talked about. That would be an intriguing one for me. I'm wondering where you're at with what your predictions are for the lineup this week. Just for that part of it, not the overall lineup, but
I agree with your point that if they were to move Jace Burgoyne back, then a Will Lorenz would be kind of an obvious selection. Maybe not an obvious selection, but like he's definitely doing the business to an extent for the Magpies, and second best for disposals against Central District on Anzac Day. I forgot about him once in our little prediction one week, and I'm not going to forget about him again. I, I think what we will see is Logan Evans just comes back in
Yeah, yeah.
for Sin. So keep Jace on a wing. And Logan had 20 disposals, 5 tackles. He had, was it 5 intercept possessions? If you just bear with me a sec.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, 5 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements. He was going at 70% disposal efficiency against Central District, and they were under a bit of pressure at the back line.
Yeah, that
In
game
that
didn't go
game,
well.
we lost pretty convincingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, to keep it easy, because I imagine Sin is the only likely change. I think that they'll keep it simple. Logan's had, was it a couple of games now
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
SANFL?
Yeah. It
So
was the Friday
uh
night against
yeah.
the win against South Adelaide. He was down there because I watched that. I was down there for that game. So yeah, it's been a couple of weeks down there. Maybe figured out a few other things, and yeah, that's funny that you've got him out of it. I completely, as I was thinking, I only put my
Yeah.
pack together like 20 minutes before we started recording, like with the looking at it. So I hadn't done too much thinking about it. But yeah, I completely blanked on Logan Evans. And as anyone that listens to the podcast regularly, we loved the guy last year. It's just funny how he's like slipped into the Magpies, obviously. And I've just like, he's
Yeah.
out of mind, out of sight, I guess. Out of sight, out of mind. But yeah, that is probably a more obvious one but then it depends depends what the coaches have been seeing. So I guess that's where
That's
my
what they want. Maybe if there's a matchup there too. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, Ryan Burton also had an okay game coming back into it, but they may want him to give him a bit more of a run
I
because
think
of his extended break.
that was my thought with Burton. I wouldn't want to bring him back in yet when there's options that I think are better at the moment. Again, I've defended Burton for a long time, and I still think he's get some undue criticism at times. But I think he has just not been as great over the last 18 months overall. And yeah, there's options that I would prefer to see. And yeah, sometimes maybe it's just like
Yeah.
wanting to play with a new toy, but it would be fun to, Will Lorenz has been an intriguing figure. But yeah, for Jace Burgoyne probably would like to have I mean, he's played okay, and I would like to see him continue to develop that wing role if we can. So yeah, Logan Evans is a good shout too because he's probably a little bit better. While he had let himself down a little bit in some of his intent, like some of the little parts of his game, as far as his actual positioning and stuff. Like obviously, like Sin's my main criticism of him has been sometimes his movement off the ball as far
Yeah.
as his defensive
Yeah.
positioning. And I think Logan Evans has shown, at his best. And I think even when he was struggling a little bit, he's more struggled with disposal and just making the wrong decisions and stuff like that. I think his defensive positioning and stuff like that is still pretty good. And if he's hopefully found a bit of touch in a decent game down at the level, and just had that break from the AFL pressure too, and maybe reset his mind a little bit over the last couple of weeks, would have hoped. So yeah, he's probably maybe earned a recall if he's played okay and is fit. Like Logan Evans clearly was a player that we loved last year and shown some good
Hmm.
things. So yeah, it's probably in that sense it's a like for like, and yeah, he's got a
Yeah.
good
I would have thought so.
yeah, um, yeah. That would probably be now that you've brought it to my mind again, as Logan Evans just completely exited my mind. I feel bad too because love the kid. But yeah, that probably does make the most sense if he's good to go and it's just a straight swap and you don't have to change too much the structure otherwise. So yeah. Apart from that, in general, as we close off, how are you feeling about coming up against the Western Bulldogs? Because it is, to me, it's a massive test for me. I am nervous.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, a lot of trepidation, in my opinion. It just, even though we mentioned the North Melbourne game was just a bit of a weird one, I still just haven't been able to shake the fact that I think a loss is around the corner for some reason. And just as a whole, the next 4 games is, I think, going to make or break our season a little bit.
Mm.
And that's casting a bit forward, but we've got Bulldogs away, the showdown, Geelong at home, and then Freo away. So while Bulldogs are quite heavy favourites, like you mentioned, probably more so because their losses have been more honourable than ours, albeit the worst one was in round one. We found ourselves in a similar position last year coming up against the Bulldogs, and we absolutely fucking blew them out of the water. So all is not lost. I'm concerned, but I think we have a chance for sure.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Ballarat. Well, it is more of a Bulldogs home ground, I guess. It's just like it's still not a ground they play regularly either. So it is a real kind of wild card to it, to the aspect of the game. Yeah, I'm nervous. I don't have like great confidence, but I'm also buoyed by some of what I've seen. Like, if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago prior to the Hawthorn game how we were going to go against the Bulldogs 3 weeks from that point, would have been like, oh yeah, I'm pretty confident we'll lose. But now I'm a bit. But then just the players are getting back right now. And Bontempelli came back and immediately looked like one of the best players in the competition. It's a great test for our stars though, because while we you always do that thing where you look ahead, look to the other side and think about all their best players, but then you sometimes forget like some of your players are the best in the fucking league as well. That's where you've got to draw some confidence from. Is like Zach Butters has come in after he missed the first 3-4 weeks, and he's already rising up the rankings of coaches' votes and champion data players of the years and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of leaderboards that Zach Butters is quickly rising on because he's playing at elite level immediately. Jason Horne-Francis, for all the bullshit out of last week's game, is playing really good footy. Connor Rosie's reinvented isn't the right word because he wasn't playing badly, but he's reinvented role. There's lots of things to look forward to, and again, we've talked about it, the spine of our side. We're relatively comfortable with. Would I like it more? It would be nice to have the defense we had a couple of years ago when Alir and or even prior to that, some of those defensive sides we had were really stingy on defense was great, but I'm okay with the spine we've got down there, and I'm really growing in confidence with the Ollie Lord and Vince Georgiades tandem. So it's like the spine, as we've talked about for the last couple of weeks, is reasonable. It's all about the intent and improving on the contest a little bit. But yeah, I have my nerves because I think the Western Bulldogs are just really playing well. But again, we're looking at it from the outside. We don't, see the mistakes that they've made in games, because we dissect every game, Port Adelaide game, and see all the mistakes. We don't watch Western Bulldogs that closely. I'm sure they've had their moments as well over the last few weeks that have made their fans that watch the games and do the podcast for them nervous at times as well. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and you mentioned they had some injury troubles, and they're kind of coming back, some of them, and they've performed quite admirably, I believe. But agree with what you said about our players, and again from my comments before, like we had similar sentiments coming into last year's game, and you never know what's going to happen. I would agree that it's going to be a game, I think, where contested possession does matter, and we're going to have to lift our game in that regard, because coming up against Western Bulldogs as a Port Adelaide side, it does tend to be that kind of game where contested possession is laced with gold. So, and Bontempelli, it's all about mitigating his impact.
Yeah.
We
lifted for
I have trepidation.
We lifted for Hawthorn in a way that I wasn't expecting. Yes, it got tight at the end, but Although, and we have a good recent record against the Bulldogs, but we also had a good recent record against Essendon and St Kilda. So, is that a burden this year? Yeah, I mean,
the Essendon, I don't know.
It's so funny because you look back at the Essendon game, we led for most of the way and just fell away at the end, and then the St Kilda game, we fell away at the start, but ultimately, if you look at it in the gameplay, we led the rest of the game, just couldn't quite fight our way back. So those two results, it's going to be interesting when we do our mid-year review, just looking back at those ones because they're just so funky. I'm going to use the word funky a lot this year because it just does describe how my mental is about some of the results we've been a part of so far. But yeah, ultimately, I think I'll be tipping the Bulldogs in my footy tips, but it'll be one of those ones where I'm tipping them because I like I've tipped the Crows the last few weeks because I go Crows, but hope they lose. I'll be tipping the Bulldogs. So it's a 50-50 coin flip for me, but I obviously hope we win. That's kind of where I'm at on the game. I'm not super confident, but I'm not unconfident either. It's just it is an intriguing matchup against one of the best. I think the Bulldogs are one of the most informed sides in the competition, considering their injuries and the results have been able to string together. And it's a really good test for us. But I've been buoyed by our performances against some decent sides the last few weeks. Like Hawthorn were at the time undefeated. So you've got to take that. You've also got to take some of the bad stuff we saw against North Melbourne and kind of like try to meld it together and figure it out. But I think we do play up to some better sides at times, and I'm hoping we do that this week.
Yep, I totally agree.
Yeah. Looking forward to watching it. I think it's a 12:50 or some 12:20 kickoff maybe actually for us here in Adelaide on Saturday.
12:50.
Yeah, 12:50. There we go. So 12:50 kickoff on Saturday afternoon. So it's an early one for Saturday. I'm looking forward to it though. Just hoping I don't have to drink my sorrows away on Saturday evening. Having a beer with you at some point, I'm presuming. So So hopefully a happy beer later Saturday afternoon. But I'm looking forward to the game this weekend. Get around the squad show on Thursday night. That's about it for me, Jamie. I'm done.
Patreon isn't free. It takes folks like you and me. But if you don't pay your $1 or $5.99, who will? Patreon $5.99. Cup of coffee. Thank you for everyone who contributes to that, and you're welcome to that little song lyrical tangent that I just went on. But yeah, love everyone's support. Recommend it to people you know if they're into Port Chat, Nuffy Port Chat, on all outlets. Facebook The Creed, Twitter _The Creed, Instagram _The Creed. Give us some love. We appreciate it. We try and interact with everyone that supports us and contributes. But if you don't, we love you just as much.
Absolutely. Nothing more to say, Jamie, but and here to sting one more time. Count the pair.
There it is. Count the pair.
We'll catch you next week.